Good evening, everyone. This regular meeting of the Board of Trustees is being held Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. The meeting is called to order at the time, and the time is 6 o'clock. Everyone, please join me on the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's proceed with the next item on the agenda. Interim Superintendent's comments.
Good evening, everyone. President Morales and members of the board, I'd like to start by wishing a happy belated birthday to Trustee Michael Nájera. And a very happy birthday to Trustee Eddie Mena this Saturday, August 21st. It gives me great pleasure to introduce and welcome Ms. Erica Olivas as the new Assistant Principal of Socorro High School. And joining her in welcoming Mr. Latrey Waters, the new Assistant Principal of Paso del Norte Elementary School. And one last announcement, we will be holding our summer graduations this coming Thursday, August the 19th at 6 p.m. at East Lake High School. Thank you, President Morales. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and move to item 4, special presentations. Our presenters, Daniel Escobar.
Good evening, President Morales, members of the board, Interim Superintendent, Mrs. Carmona. My name is Daniel Escobar, Chief Communications Officer for the district, and it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's recognitions. If you will all please step down to receive our honorees. Our first recognition this evening honors a high school band director who earned the 2021 Meritorious Achievement Award from the Texas Bandmasters Association. Each year, the association recognizes 3 individuals statewide for their contributions and distinguished service to music education. Mr. Vega is only the 5th band director from El Paso to be recognized since the creation of the award. He joins an elite group of 64 directors statewide to have ever received the award. Congratulations to this outstanding educator and band director from America's High School, Henry Vega. Mr. Vega, if you'll please join the team for a photo. Congratulations once again. Our next recognition honors the outstanding SISD Financial Services Department, which earned the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Association of School Business Officials International for the 4th consecutive year. The team earned this prestigious recognition from the worldwide organization for its commitment to responsible and transparent financial operations. The recognition was awarded based on SISD's fiscal year 2020 comprehensive annual financial report. Congratulations to our SISD Financial Services Department. They are, please, a round of applause. Absolutely. Representing the team tonight, Angel Hernandez. Lourdes Hernandez. Vanessa Silva. Karen Benavides. Adriana Aguirre. Michael Melendez. Gilbert Melendez. Susan Olson. Guadalupe Garcia. Jose Flores. Jose San Miguel. Samuel Garcia. Deborah Mora. Maria Morales. Renee Vargas. And the team is led by Chief Financial Officer Tony Reza. Ladies and gentlemen, if I can please have you back to the front for a photo. Sure. Congratulations once again. If you would like to, sir. All right.
Thank you, sir. Our last recognition this evening honors the SISD Public Relations Department for earning various accolades in the 2021 National School Public Relations Association Awards Program. These outstanding professionals earned 3 Golden Achievement Awards, 3 Awards of Excellence, 4 Awards of Merit, and 2 Honorable Mentions. The 3 Golden Achievement Awards are among the highest national honors, which recognizes the outstanding execution and reception of communication campaigns and special events. The NSPRA Annual Awards program recognizes school district communications teams from across the U.S. for outstanding and strategic work in educational communications, publications, and multimedia. Congratulations to our SISD Public Relations Department. They are Ms. Maya Kirtley. I don't see her. Okay. Celeste Reyes. Got it. Mark Saldaña. Andy Perez. Andrew Campos. Emily De Santos. Cesar Ruiz. Acavius Largo. Brianda Gonzalez. Jasmine Cuevas. Christy Flores Jones. And our district communications leader, Mr. Daniel Escobar. Please join us for a picture.
That concludes our presentations. Thank you.
Our next item is the open forum. Before I do that, before we go to that item, I'm going to read the following. We greatly appreciate those individuals who have requested to speak to the board during open forum. We are bound by certain time constraints in order to cover all the items on the agenda, and therefore we must limit the presentations to 3 minutes per speaker. Please respect the rights of others in your presentation. By law, the board cannot take action upon or discuss any item which is not posted on tonight's agenda, but we will give our presentation, we will give all presentations our serious consideration. Thank you. Let's proceed to open forum. Our first speaker is, we have Angie Barrera.
Good afternoon, members of the board and interim superintendent. I am here to express my concern on customer service and your open door policy in the district. I called Ms. Carmona's office on August 13 to set up a meeting with her regarding a campus issue with one of my children. I wanted to speak to Ms. Carmona since there is no assistant superintendent for middle schools at this time to go to. I called the office and Ms. Castillo seemed nice and professional. She notified me she would get back to me on a date and time for my meeting that I had requested. I received a call back like Ms. Castillo stated she would, but everything changed afterwards. She told me Ms. Carmona advised her to tell me to follow the chain of command and go to Dr. Graham, which I responded, no, for what? As I felt I would not get a fair and equal opportunity because of past experiences with Dr. Graham. I also expressed why would Ms. Carmona throw me into the lion's den. Ms. Costello then asked for me to specify my concern with her in detail. In a detailed manner, I asked her why. Would it be that if my concern wasn't important enough for Ms. Carmona, she would not see me, or why? If I felt safe going to you, Ms. Carmona, why would you push me away? I hung up, and up to this day, have yet to receive a follow-up from you or your office. This is one of the few reasons why I have decided to withdraw my children out of SISD. Hopefully this board will hire a competent, caring, more professional, more available superintendent soon. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Kirkendall? Kirkendall. Kirkendall?
Our next speaker is Dr. Catherine Kirkendall.
Hi, I'm Dr. Catherine Kirkendall. This is my daughter, Kaylin. I'd like to address the mandatory 10-day quarantine being enforced for anyone the school nurse determines is a close contact of a COVID positive. I and many other parents have several issues with this. In elementary school, there have been several instances where every single person in a class is considered a close contact and required to quarantine, regardless of whether a mask is worn or not. This can include up to 22 students and a teacher. For one positive case, 23 people are sent home for 10 days. There is no accounting for whether kids have symptoms or not. There is no early opt-out with a negative test. And what is even more unfair is that every day missed is counted as an absence. TEA does not require quarantine for close contacts, but you do. TEA allows for remote conferencing during quarantine, so students are not forced to be absent, but you do not. I have been informed that there are plans in the making. That is not good enough. You have already sent a minimum of hundreds of children home for 10-day quarantines who have been marked absent each day missed. TEA is not giving leniency for attendance because, one, they don't require quarantine for people with no symptoms, and two, they have allowed schools to implement remote conferencing if a student is forced to or opts to stay home the 10 days. Let me tell you from personal experience what I have seen happen during this period. Healthy kids are being forced to stay in their homes, miss instruction, miss social interaction with their peers. Instead of moving and getting outside, they are inside watching TV because they cannot be with the other kids. To tell parents to send their kids to school if they have no symptoms, just to call the parents 1 hour later to take them home and make them be absent is just ridiculous. You are denying healthy children their education. You are denying them the instruction they need to catch up from the losses encountered last year when you forced everyone to do virtual learning. This is unacceptable. It is time to get your act together. Ensuring the students receive instruction when you are forcing them to stay home should have been top priority. Luckily, I have young children. What about high schoolers? How can they be expected to stay home for 10 days and catch up while keeping up when they get back? This is unrealistic for any student, regardless of their natural abilities. Again, parents in El Paso are not given the choice that the state has made available. Parents cannot send healthy kids to school under the current quarantine restrictions. As I close, I'd like to reiterate my sentiments from last week. Whether it's quarantine or masks for their children, parents deserve a choice. As a mother, I have the innate ability to know what is best for my child. I have a natural instinct to protect my child. Every mother has this, and every mother should be given the choice to use her God-given instinct to protect her child as she sees fit. Nobody knows their children better than their own mother, and for anyone to insinuate that a mother who wants her 4-year-old to attend school without a mask does not love her child or want to protect them is dead wrong. That is exact opposite. The exact opposite is true. A society which reduces its children to infection carriers and insists on sacrificing the well-being of children to save adults is a cruel, abusive, regressive, and barbaric society. The mama bears are out, and we will protect our young. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rosie Perez.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, President Morales, members of the board, and Mrs. Carmona, Interim Superintendent. I am Rosie Perez, and I'm here on behalf of our members from West Texas Alliance. On May 18th, 2021, during the regularly scheduled school board meeting, our Vice President of Support, Tom Hill, spoke in open forum and asked you to reconsider compensation for the 2021 school year. And you did. As a result, employees will be receiving an additional $2,000 bonus this year, and they're super excited about that. I also spoke during this school board meeting, and we asked for a 45-minute lunch. As a result, our elementaries received a clearly defined transition time before and after lunch, a true 30-minute duty-free lunch, a 15-minute brain break, and an additional 15 minutes of administrative time. At the secondary level, they received a 35-minute duty-free lunch and an additional 15 minutes of administrative time. You listened to what our members had to say, and you did the right thing. Our members were very pleased and very appreciative with the outcomes, and we thank you for doing the right thing. And in keeping with doing the right thing, we hope that you continue doing right by students and employees. Teachers and staff have always done an outstanding job during the normal school year. But during this pandemic, they truly have done a tremendous job with students. So we ask you to once again listen to our members and adopt a temporary mask mandate to keep everyone safe in our public schools. And we also want you all to review the policy of compensation for employees who have to be quarantined for 10 days and having to use their own sick leave time. We understand that you all had this last year, both semesters, and we're asking you to consider it again with the current circumstances, because when you do what is right, when you make decisions keeping students' best interest at heart, and when you take care of your employees, students win. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hill, don't go away that quick. You're next to speak. You've got two items to, you signed up for 2 items.
Okay, thank you guys. I had a couple of things. Yes, I did talk about that we could do that ESSER funding. I talked about it in May and I talked about it in June. Lo and behold, it happened in July. Amazing. I got professional speaker to a professional that I went to before I talked about it. I knew what was going on. I knew we could do that, and thank you for coming around and showing us that we could get that $2,000 bonus off of money lost during the pandemic. I want to thank you for that. So I'm a bus driver, and a lot of times bus drivers, we look at bus driver needs and stuff like that. So crazy me looking for how the bus phones are. And finally, me and my friend, James Brown, he wrote up a schematics on how to do bus zones, and lo and behold, we finally got the first right bus zone in Squirrel District at Squirrel High School. I'm not talking about Rio Vista Street, that's crazy. But the bus zone was done the way high school bus zones are and should be. And we're hoping that the next school, they listen to our, and that bus zone is done the correct way too. So I thank you guys for actually doing that, and it saves a lot of trouble and everything. No one has to wait from this bus and this, because everything is lined up just perfectly. Not talking about Rio Vista Street. It's a different ballgame. But thank you very much for that, and thank you very much for the payout on the ESSER 2 funds. Thank you very much. Bye.
Tommy, Mr. Hill, you're also signed up for another item here. You took care of it? Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Our next speaker is Marisol Moreno.
Can we give them a map?
Give you a map so you can know.
Sure, that'd be fine. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Marisol Moreno. I am a parent of students at Ernesto Serna, and we are here to discuss a bus stop. I know there's more important things, but to us, a bus stop is very important. Since we are working parents, we've had this bus stop for the past 15 years, and all of a sudden they decided to remove it, and it's causing a lot of problems to the parents around us where we live. I approached Ms. Jackie Gutierrez, the transportation director, and she told me that they had removed that bus stop 2 years ago, which it wasn't true. She told me that she couldn't do anything, that our kids could walk 4 minutes to the bus stop. We're talking about first and second graders. They're little kids. Right now, where we want is safety for our kids. There's rainy days, it snows, and our kids have to walk 4 minutes. Another issue is they told us that the bus couldn't go. I don't know if you can see on the map. They did a new stop right there on a 4-way stop on Flor Bonita and Flor del Sol. That stop right there, that 4-way stop, is very trafficked. Ms. Macias went and she saw, and she did admit it, that there was a lot more traffic. And what we wanted is for the bus to be at the same stop it used to be before, which was on Flor del Sur, corner of Flor del Sur and Flor del Sol. But they're saying that the bus driver does not feel confident to go through there, like he doesn't feel safe. But what about our kids? Our kids are safe walking 4 minutes? So to me, it's like they're putting more attention to the driver than, so if they can't change the driver, then change the bus. Get a smaller bus. Another issue is we've seen issues there in that 4-way stop where cars can't wait because it's the only exit out from where we live, that 4-way stop. So we see that cars are honking to the bus, like move, move, while parents are barely taking their kids down so that they can put them on the bus. And another issue, it has happened, like they go around the bus. So it's just an accident waiting to happen. So we bring it to you so that you can hopefully resolve this issue soon before an accident happens, because I honestly feel that sooner or later, something is gonna happen in that area. And I make the district responsible for that.
Thank you. And we also have Humberto Moreno.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Board of Trustees. Thank you for giving us time for this issue that we're having right now. Just like my wife said, that corner on Flor Bonita and Flor del Sol, that's where all the issues at. That's where they made that new bus stop. And there's a lot of traffic through there, a lot. Since they opened that new road in front of the Thompson, the warehouses, a lot of people go through there. So the issue was we've had that truck stop for 15 years. My son's gonna graduate from Socorro High School. He always had it. And we know everyone has gone through there. I don't know why this bus driver doesn't wanna go through there, because we've been told directly he does not feel safe going through there. And supposedly the routes go by seniority. I don't know what type of seniority, because seniority shouldn't even count when it comes to children and their safety. That should be first. One thing he's forgetting, seniority doesn't pay him. Our kids pay him. Okay, so if he can't drive the bus, what is he doing driving a bus? If he can't have a route, why is he picking that route? So if he can't do it, to me, I feel he's not doing his job. He's not doing it right. I've been a truck driver for over 25 years, and I go wherever I'm told to go to. No ands, ifs, or buts. That's why you're considered a professional driver. You're considered a professional bus driver. And when you're saying you can't do a job, then you're not fit for it. All we want is for that bus stop to be reinstated. And it's not us. The corner of Flor del Sol and Flor del Sur, there's a lot more kids that walk. Our daughters have to walk 4 minutes. Their kids have to walk more because they live further down the street. And that bus stop has been there for 15 years. So I don't know why all of a sudden they just removed it. Another thing, customer service, that really needs to be worked on, because once you talk to someone, they pretend to help you. If you call them back, it's a totally different story. Dr. Graham, that's the worst. That person doesn't want to work, she should stay home, not ruin everyone else's day. That's all I'm saying. With all due respect, if they don't want to do their job, then just let someone else do their job professionally. And that has been a problem here at Socorro for a long time. That's my concern. I'm just hoping that you guys do reinstate it. Think about doing that for our children's safety. And we brought it here to you guys, and we want to, if anything does happen, we're holding you responsible, the District of Socorro. Thank you.
Ms. Carmona,
Next speaker is Delia Ortiz.
Mr. Morales. Ms. Carmona, can we look into that specific bus route and whether there's any flexibility in the circumstances why it was changed? Thank you.
Note was taken. Ms. Delia Ortiz.
Okay. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Delia Ortiz, espero entiendan mis palabras. Yo como mis vecinos nos venimos a quejar por lo mismo, por la parada del bus. Yo estoy todavía 3 cuadras más retirada y es para allá donde es última camino, y todavía hay niños más lejos y chicos de 6 a 8 años que caminan. Okay. Ahora mi esposo en la mañana pues miró que iba a pasar un incidente en la parada del bus, la miró también mi vecina, mi esposo me comentó, quiero que nos hagan favor de tomar en cuenta nuestras palabras por la protección de los niños porque son chiquitos. Antes se hacía la parada en la Flor del Sur y Flor del Sol. Allí iban mis niños, ahí lo recogía el bus. Ya pasaron años, ya volvieron ahora niños chiquitos y casi todos son de las mismas edades y peligran porque por lo mismo esta calle es muy transitada, porque ahora que yo recojo al niño ahí en el bus, miro tanto carro que pasa y mucha gente no tiene la prevención de ver que está el bus parado y no le interesa y brincan las reglas del bus. Por eso yo hago favor de que pongan, pues nos hagan nuestras palabras y nuestras notificaciones que pedimos, que se mueva un poquito más la parada del bus, porque la mayoría de los niños es para el área donde nosotros estamos. Ahí sí, por favor, nos toman en cuenta. Es todo.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Frank Guzman.
Good evening, everybody. Board of Trustees and Interim Superintendent. My name is Frank Guzman, and I'm a retired teacher, and so is my wife. And I just came today to express my concern about property taxes in El Paso, and in particular, the taxes that are charged here in Socorro ISD. I noticed that it's an item in the agenda that there's going to be a public hearing. Is that like right now, that hearing, or that's going to be scheduled at a future date for the proposed tax rate for SISD?
Actually, today, it'll be
It is
further on the
today.
item.
So
on
what
the
is that
items.
proposed rate for Socorro ISD?
Yes, we'll have a presentation for that.
Oh, there's going to be a presentation? Okay.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Okay, well, this is my concern. I'm retired, my wife is retired, and we have to pay, right now, we have to pay $578 a month in property taxes to live where we're living right now. And thank God we're financially independent, but every year taxes seem to go up more and more and more and more. I know you guys are not responsible for the other tax entities in El Paso, but I'm looking at my tax bill here, and the highest tax rate in El Paso County, city, whatever, is Socorro ISD at 1.34. So considering that people like me, we work 30-plus years, we work all our lives, and we retire, and now we're paying all this money every year, it seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. My neighbor's selling her house because she pays $12,000 a year in property tax. So she's like, man, I'm gone. I'm leaving here. And I'm a veteran, and I get a tax break, and still I'm paying $6,942 a year in property tax. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. So what I would like you guys to consider is, working the tax rate here in Socorro. You guys are the highest. I did a little bit of research, and I found out that El Paso, according to roofstock.com, El Paso is the second highest tax rate in the United States behind Milwaukee, Wisconsin. To me, that's crazy because in El Paso, people don't make the highest wages here in El Paso. We don't have a lot of high-earning jobs and salaries here in El Paso like Austin, Dallas. I was shocked that San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, their tax rates are lower than El Paso. So something is wrong. Something is wrong with this. And I'm thinking anything you guys can do to kind of level the tax rate. I mean, the city is 0.99, the county is 0.48, community college is 0.13, University Medical Center is 0.26, and then Socorro is 1.34. Don't get me wrong, my kids were educated in the Socorro School District. They graduated from Montwood High School. They got an excellent education. I looked at your agenda. You guys are doing awesome things here. I mean, Socorro is an awesome district, so don't get me wrong. But I'm thinking that we have to do better with finances. We have to do better helping the citizens of El Paso. And I'm all for, educating our kids and doing all these great programs. I mean, that's great, but we have to be smart with our money. And just to give you an example, the ex-superintendent, he left, he quit. I don't know what happened. I read it in the news, and I saw some things about it, and I thought it was crazy to give him a payout of $639,000. I thought that was crazy. To me, $2,800 of my hard-earned dollars were paid to this district, and you're going to pay this guy $600-something. He's probably a millionaire already. And then we're paying him all this money. I mean, I still don't understand it. I think it's crazy. I mean, you should have kept him as the superintendent. But anyway, please consider the tax rate and help us out, us retirees out. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Thomas Ianton.
Good evening, President Morales, Interim Superintendent Kimona, members of the board. I've got 2 items. Hopefully I can get through them, so bear with me. First of all, I want to mention the passing of Gracie Tabar. And I want to thank all of my colleagues for supporting me over the last 3 weeks. Gracie I was here 18 years, and she was here almost 30 years. She was my only assistant when I came here in 2003. Gracie was a remarkable individual. Words cannot describe who she was or what she believed in, but loving, helpful, infectious, compassionate, funny, caring, and a wonder woman. And I could go on and on and on. Gracie loved SISD. She loved the kids. And is it not that reason we are here? Because of the students and the kids? If it wasn't for them, we would not be here. And Gracie reminded me of that daily. She told me for 18 years when I was working here, Mr. Arrington, we are here for the kids. We will do everything for them. Have faith. Gracie's love for the kids could be seen every day. She loved organizing and running graduations, cookouts, turkey dinners, meetings, running the foundation golf tournament every year. And I would not have to tell her very much. She took it and she ran with it. She helped graduate thousands of students each year, and she raised, through the foundation, over $500,000 for student scholarships over the 12 tournaments. If there was a fault in Gracie, which there was none, she could never say no. She could not say no to anyone. I told her during one of my evaluations a number of years ago that I had with her, I said, Gracie, you need to say no. Did she listen to me? No. That was Gracie Tavar. Gracie was taken. From us too soon. In 10 days, the 27th of this month, she would have turned 50. She was loved by everyone, and she will truly be missed. Second item. Now, for the main reason I'm addressing the board. She always told me to take a deep breath. I stated out Gracie loved SISD, and she did everything for the kids. This year's SISD Foundation Golf Tournament will be in memory of Gracie. Tomorrow is Mrs. Arrington is my 49th wedding anniversary. I'm going to say some things that she doesn't know anything about, so I might not make it for a couple of hours. Mrs. Arrington and I are going to donate $2,500 to establish a Gracie Tavar scholarship. I have also been approached by a number of vendors who will also be contributing to that amount. The tournament will be on October the 8th, which is the Friday of our first intercession at Butterfield Trails. And we had a meeting today to discuss the final arrangements for the tournament and stuff. And I think there are a few of the family members are present in the room. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arrington. That concludes our open forum. We're going to move into our next item. We would like to move to item 9F for the fact that there's a lot of interest from the public, and this enable us to move up this item to allow a presentation by Dr. Acoranza. Mr. Blanco?
Thank you, President Morales. Interim Superintendent Carmona. Sorry, Tom got me a little choked up. Dr. Acoranza is here to give a presentation to the board regarding these health issues related to the two items on the agenda under 9, which is 9F and G. We'd ask the board to make a motion to move these items up on the agenda so that Dr. Acoranza can do his presentation.
Make a motion to move. Second.
Thank you.
We have a motion. We have a motion by Mr. Richard Castellano, and a second by, get me a little nervous here, Pablo Barrera. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries.
Good evening, President Morales, members of the board, Interim Superintendent. Thank you for the invitation to come and speak to you about the COVID-19 situation in El Paso. It is an honor to be here in front of you to show you what has been happening. We've been working very closely with the Socorro ISD and in all the independent school districts in Region 19 so we can keep our students, teachers, staff safe and healthy. As you might as well know by now, the Delta variant is in our community, and the Delta variant is extremely important to know that it is a COVID-19 virus, but I would say with the steroids. It is more infectious than the original virus, and that is why it is a very, very, very high concern for public health. Variants come when there's big outbreaks. From the transmission from person to person, the virus changes its structure and mutates, and many of those mutations can make the virus a lot more virulent, a lot more infectious, causing a more severe disease, or eventually they can escape the therapeutic alternatives that we have, such as the vaccines, such as the antiviral, and such as other treatments that we have as healthcare professionals use to treat those patients with COVID-19. Not long ago, I want to remind everybody that we were the hottest spot in the US for COVID-19, and that was not a very pleasant feeling. The loss of life and many patients in the hospital, many family members suffering because they couldn't go see their members and their loved ones when they were just sick. It is a very unpleasant picture. I had to witness all of that, and I don't want that to happen in our community anymore. The Delta variant appeared in India, and many of you might not know, but in India suffered a great outbreak that had a lot of hospitalizations, a lot of fatalities, and from that outbreak in India, the Delta variant came about. And it wasn't too long before that Delta variant was predominant, not just in India, but throughout the world, and also in our country. Our community recently just identified the Delta variant and has been the predominant variant as it has been identified in all across the state. We continue to do genetic sequencing to see how this variant continues to affect our community. And we have seen some other variants like the Alpha variant, which is from the United Kingdom, and some other ones from the California strain. Things that are important to let you know is that the Delta variant can produce symptoms a lot sooner. Before, we used to have the incubation period between 2 to 14 days. Now we're seeing that individuals infected with the Delta variant can present with symptoms between 3 to 5 days. Another important thing to mention is that there's a lot more virus in the nasopharynx of those that are infected, and many of those patients do not have symptoms initially. That's why the non-pharmacological interventions are extremely important. I put a picture of the Delta variant showing how it attaches to the cells. In the initial virus that we saw, the children were not affected as much as the adults. But now we're seeing that the Delta variant is attacking the children, is attacking young adults, and also those vaccinated ones, particularly those that have chronic comorbidities, which here in our community we have plenty. A large percentage of our population suffer from diabetes. A lot of percentage of our population has high blood pressure. Those we see in people that passed away from complications of COVID-19. And 98% of the people that passed away from the complications have either one or many of those comorbidities. So how does the COVID-19, either Delta variant or the COVID-19 in general, gets transmitted? Well, the infection is transmitted primarily from droplets, from talking, from singing, from doing normal activities. But as we increase the force of the voice or the respiration, the amount of material that is expelled has a lot more virus, and the chances of infecting other people is going to be greater. We put a nice study in how all these activities, which we normally do, can have all increased risk of catching the COVID-19. It is extremely common to see that when an adult in the household gets infected with the COVID-19, our children get infected, and those are the ones that before they exhibit symptoms, they come to school. And we happen to just identify many of those when do the rapid testing, when they've been doing the screening testing in the schools, which has been a great tool and part of the very comprehensive safety plan that your school district has adopted, and it has been excellent in applying and keeping the students, the staff, and the teachers safe. What are the symptoms for the COVID variant? Well, it can be confused with many other respiratory viruses, such as the common cold, such as the flu, such as the COVID. Doesn't have much of the different symptoms, but it can have the sore throat, it can have the headache, the vomiting, the diarrhea, and definitely no different than many other of the patients that suffer from COVID-19. And still, there's gonna be some people that are gonna be asymptomatic, meaning that they don't express any of those symptoms. People that have been vaccinated that get infected with the COVID-19 Delta variant might experience very mild symptoms or milder symptoms that might be confused with the allergies that is right this season in our community. One of the greatest treatments that we have, or tools in public health, is the vaccine. We had been waiting for the vaccine for quite a bit of time until recently that we have been rolling out the vaccine to our community. Initially, because of the supply, it was very short supply of the vaccine. We had to prioritize to those high-risk groups. Later on, as we were able to meet the demand, now we're able to bring the vaccine to every single member of the community that wants it. The vaccine is, I've been saying over and over, is not the enemy. The COVID-19 is the one that has a lot of those side effects, long-term effects, when we catch the COVID-19. The vaccine has been proven to be effective and safe, but we need to complete our immunization schedule. And if for those that haven't received the vaccine, please do get it. That's the way that we're gonna continue protecting our family, our loved ones, and our community as a whole. One recent study that looked at the effectiveness of the vaccine in the United Kingdom showed that only one dose is gonna give us a protection of 35%. But if we receive the whole 2 doses, the protection goes up to 85, 88%, which is great. So we need to complete those schedules, and we need to continue inviting those that haven't been vaccinated to please go get it. There's plenty of opportunities. The Socorro Independent School Districts have a lot of pop-up events, have partnered with the city and the county to provide the vaccine to all that come and get and want to get the vaccine. On our situation, we continue to experience an increase in the positive cases. All those new cases, we continue to see that it continues to rise. We are considered, based on the standards of the CDC, to be a substantial community transmission, and it's gonna be probably this week or next week that we're gonna be considered high transmission rate. It is the Delta variant that is in our community. It is mostly affected that are unvaccinated people, and some that are vaccinated as well. Our cases have grown 45% every week, keeps growing and growing and growing, In the 7-day rolling average, the new cases have tripled since July. This is very alarming to us that continuously monitor the numbers, continue to monitor the situation that we have in our community. 3 out of 4 people that have infected with the COVID-19 are unvaccinated, the same as the people that we see getting into the hospital. This graph represents the hospitalizations and the new cases. And one thing that is favorable is how we see that before, those 2 lines used to run parallel because first we have the cases and a couple weeks after we have the hospitalizations. Fortunately, for the high percentage of people that is vaccinated in El Paso, we have seen this decoupling of those 2 lines in which we continue to see the rise in the new cases, but the hospitalizations increase at a slower rate, but nonetheless are increasing. As far as the cases by age group, because that is extremely important, we see at the bottom the line of the people that are 65 and older, that even though the vast majority, about 90% of our senior citizens are vaccinated, they're still contracting the virus. They still are going to be getting the virus from somebody else that comes and infects them and can end up in the hospital. But the red line is the line for those children that we're seeing that now more and more are getting infected. But the ones that are on top are the young adults. The young adults is the ones that comprise the highest percentage of people that are unimmunized. The cases that come, whether you had the vaccine and the ones that are unvaccinated, this is the representation over the last 10 weeks approximately, in which 1 out of 5 are vaccinated, but 4 out of 5 are unvaccinated. It is staggering to see that. The Delta variant is very infectious. I cannot stress enough and emphasize that. And that's why we need to apply all the public health interventions that we have at our disposal. Non-pharmacological interventions that include the distancing, that include the isolation and quarantine, that includes the use of face masks. Pharmacological interventions, such as a vaccine, which is one of the greatest tools that we have. And unfortunately, for people that need to be in the hospital, we still have the antiviral and the monoclonal antibodies. In regards to the cases on the hospitalizations, we still see that it is about 10% of the cases that need to get hospital attention. And it's going to continue to see about that percentage, and it has seen all across the country how the hospitalization continues to increase, in particular those communities that have low immunization rate. In the state of Texas, the largest metropolitan areas are suffering a large surge in the hospitals because of the Delta variant of COVID-19. The last 4 weeks, we've seen an average of about 8 or 10% of people that need to get hospitalized, and 83% of those hospitalized are unvaccinated, as mentioned before. The hospitalization is more frequent in adults, but we still see it in children. We still see some of the condition called MIS, multisystem inflammatory syndrome, in children, which requires hospitalization of those children that were exposed or were infected with the COVID-19. This is the graph how the unvaccinated take the vast majority of the hospitalizations, but some of those that have completed their immunization schedule are still at risk. And those that are immunosuppressed or immunocompromised are the ones that are at risk. That is the reason why recently it was approved to receive a booster dose of one of the messenger RNA vaccines. Last Friday, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices has approved to be given that booster dose to those adults or those individuals that are considered to be immunocompromised. Very soon here in the city, we're getting ready to start administering that booster dose of the vaccine to those that are considered to be in that group. The distribution on the hospitalization, we can see that still our senior citizens are getting affected and getting to require hospitalization. But the young adults, if we see that area starts to increase, those young adults are seeing that it's a change from what we saw before, which the vast majority were those that are adults greater than 65 years of age. But now we're seeing those younger adults getting hospitalized. This is extremely important to see that from January up to now, the cases and the breakthrough cases, we see that dissociation, and there's a 28 fourfold decrease in the chances that you have to get infected or to get hospitalized if you are vaccinated. So it is extremely important to mention that we need science. This is the science. This is the real data that shows the effectiveness of the vaccine. What is happening with our schools? Well, our schools are considered to be a congregate setting. We have 20, 30 children in the classroom. We have teachers. There's hardly any space to be moving physical space. What do we need to do? We need to establish that comprehensive multi-layer plan to protect the students, the teachers, and the staff in general. Of course, having the vaccination as the foundation of these plans, now that we have it available, being one of the greatest tools that we have. Isolation and quarantine is extremely important, especially separating those kids that come to school sick. The nurses are doing a wonderful job trying to separate those that are sick from those that are healthy coming to school. Face mask is very, very important as well, because we have seen the importance of the face mask and how it is a protective effect. 96% reduction in influenza last season here in our community. That is a staggering number. And just by washing your hands, wearing your face mask, and staying home if you're sick. Very simple. People might not think that those work because there's hardly any investment. It's inexpensive to be doing that, but it is proven to give the benefit of staying healthy. The ventilation, which all of you have done a lot of improvements in the building, and I praise you for all that. Ventilation is another one of the strategies that we need to use to keep the environment safe. Cleaning surfaces, the enhanced sanitation that you have been carrying out. The transmission within the schools will happen, and it might be happening as we have an increased community transmission of the virus. This is the number of cases per 1,000 students that we have had. The two lines represent probably the summer break, but when we had the last period of this academic year and the beginning of the school year, and if you see how it's starting to increase in the number of cases that we have in the students in the schools, and this is for the whole county. The percent of child cases compared to the adults. We saw that as soon as we started taking our children out, getting exposed and getting to do some other activities, the cases in children started to increase. And the age group of the children that we're seeing affected is preventable. Those that are 11 to 14, which are the middle schoolers, and those that are 15 to 18, which are high schoolers. Those are eligible to receive the vaccine. Those can be prevented by vaccinating our children that are 12 years of age and older. The children that haven't been able to get vaccinated, which is our elementary school kids and our children in the Head Start, still out in the lower range, but again, we have an upward trend in the cases that we're having in that age group of the children. And with that, I'll thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you and to have this presentation to the board.
Thank you, Dr. Carranza. Thank you.
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead. I have a couple of questions real quick. I know we got members on both sides of the argument here, and you talked about mask effectiveness. Can you be more detailed on it? Because there's going to say, well, some are going to say that it's not effective. Some say it's very effective.
Yes, definitely. The effectiveness of the mask depends on the quality of the mask and the properly worn mask. Some studies suggest an effectiveness of 30 all the way to 75% of effectiveness in transmitting. It has the benefit of catching the droplets that are infected with the virus, but also it serves as a protective effect for those that wear it. When you talk to somebody, there's going to be droplets that are going to be expelled to the other person that we're talking, and by both of them wearing the mask, that's the highest percentage of protection that you're going to be getting. The mask is not a political statement. The mask is a public health intervention that we have. One very good one. Historically, with the 1918 pandemic, we saw a big difference in mortality, and basically it was the use of masks and social distancing that differentiate Philadelphia from St. Louis. Higher mortality when there was no social distancing, when there was a lot of less people wearing a mask. It has been proven in the lab, the effectiveness of the mask or the face covering. Healthcare workers, we use it, and we use a higher grade, which is the N95, in which those are the masks that we use to protect ourselves when we go and care for a patient that has an infectious and communicable disease. Many of the healthcare providers cannot stop working, and they were able to get protected because of the mask. That is some of the evidence that we have as far as the mask. We all need to wear it so we can have the full benefit of having the face mask.
The quarantine period, you mentioned that the virus will show itself out in 3 to 5 days. Do we need to can we shorten the quarantine period, or do we keep it as is?
Unfortunately, the quarantine time we had initially required 14 days. Based on the studies and the data that the CDC published, we decreased the quarantine to 10 days. The 10 days should be enough for at least 90% of the individuals to show symptoms and become infectious to others. And that's why the quarantine and the isolation is extremely important. We understand that some of the testing can be done, but depending on the exposure that you have, if you test them too early, you might not be able to detect those that are infected. If you test them later on in the course of the quarantine, you will be able to detect more and more of those individuals that are infected. What we don't want is to create a higher exposure and a higher amount of kids and staff and teachers be infected with a single individual that can be just attending the school, can be attending an office. And there's plenty of examples where only one employee goes to the break room or the lunchroom and infected 5, 10 people in the same office.
Thank you. One more question. People are concerned this is going to be a permanent mandate. What time period do you see that a mask mandate or a health emergency would be in effect? What parameters do you use to say, okay, it's safe to go back to voluntary masks?
We need to see that the rate of new cases decreases, as well as the positivity rate and the hospitalization. Once we implement an intervention, we need a period to evaluate the effectiveness of that intervention. And that's when we're mentioning 30 days to see how effective it was to have a mask mandate. How effective it's going to be that everybody wears it when they're indoors. We know that indoors is where you're going to have the highest rate of transmission between person to person. So having that evaluation, and it's an ongoing thing, it's not going to be just put it and forget about that. It's put it and continuously evaluate it like any other program. We have to evaluate how this intervention was effective. Did it does what we intended to do? And this way we can continuously recommend different strategies or keep the strategies that we have. So I hope that we have a way to determine what's going to happen in the future. There's models that can say, well, there's going to be this much reduction in transmission if we do A, B, and C. There's going to be different variables, but unfortunately, this pandemic has been proven to be unpredictable. Most of those models in which they predict initially were failing to let us know what will be happening in the next month, in the next 6 weeks. We do know for sure that when the Governor Abbott, at the beginning of July, instituted the face mask mandate, it took about 10 days for El Paso to start going down from the second surge that we had.
Thank you.
Any
President
other
Morales.
questions by our board this time?
So, Doctor, right here it states that the viral load is 1,000 times more or greater than the regular COVID, right? The Delta variant is.
Yes, that is correct, sir.
Okay, so we have to try to service our students as much as possible, and we do have students in the general population that are immunocompromised. So to better give them an education, to give them the same opportunity as everybody else is receiving, it's best, your recommendation is best for everybody to have a mask to protect, especially those auto or immunocompromised students, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I'm good. Yeah, just making sure we're taking care of our kids.
Thank you. At this time, Dr. Carranza, we really appreciate your presentation and the input you gave us and your expertise.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I apologize, we can't take questions from the audience, I'm sorry. We have to obviously sign up for the open forum or speak during the agenda item. So I apologize. Yes, I got that coming up. If you're on the agenda, of course, not a problem at all.
Thank you. So
Go ahead, Mr. Blanco.
we've heard Dr. Carranza's presentation on these items. I understand that there are folks who have signed up to speak to these specific items, so now would be the time to allow that public comment on these items. So you can go back to the list.
Yes, sir. Before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and let you all know the speakers, give you those that are going to speak to this specific agenda item. We greatly appreciate you as individuals who have requested to speak to the board in regards to this specific agenda item. We are bound by certain time constraints in order to cover all the items on the agenda, and therefore must limit presentations to 3 minutes. Please respect the rights of others in your presentation. By law, the board cannot take action upon or discuss any items which is not posted on tonight's agenda, but we will give all our presentations and all a serious consideration. Thank you. At this time, we'll begin. Our first speaker is Paul Sansiri.
Thank you, board members. Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak today. Freedom of speech is very important, and I thank you for that. My name is Paul Sansiri. I'm a retired military. I served the military for 20 years. I have 6 deployments and 4 combat tours. I got a total of 45 months of combat. I served this country. Oh, sorry. My buddies have died for the freedoms we take for granted. I have had buddies' body parts in my hands for the freedoms that we talk about today. Freedom in my eyes is a little different. The same freedoms that allows you to wear that mask is the same freedoms that allows me not to wear the mask. When you force something on someone, like a mask, it's not freedom anymore. It's a dictatorship. And the last time I checked, this is America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Let me explain. This country was formed on the land of the free and the home of the brave. If we start taking freedoms away, what is next? Look, we got mask mandates. Then what? Passports on vaccines? Then what? Hey, stay home. You can get your education that way. Then what? Concentration camps. Then what? Death. And if you don't think I'm serious about it, it's already happened. Look at history. Look at Hitler. If you do this, it will create the next item for the government to put on us. Nothing should be forced. When something is forced, we're not free. And the last time I checked, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights allows us the freedom not to wear the mask, but it also allows you the freedom to wear that mask. So until that document changed, what are we actually doing? Because let's be clear, this is not about health. I'm not a doctor, and I can see that. The real pandemic here is obesity, it's cancer, it's heart disease, it's abortions. 1.7 billion people in this world are overweight. 25 billion babies have been aborted this year alone. You can look that up. So it's not about health. If it was about health and people, then that would stop. It's laughable. It's hurtful. And don't get me started on school lunches. 25 grams of sugar. How about we educate on boosting our immune systems? We should be teaching our kids how to build their immune system and not tear it down. I will come to the schools. I'm retired military. I will come to the schools for free and teach on wellness. The doctor here, he stated all this thing about fear. He didn't ever said anything about wellness. How about we educate on vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc. Now, I would like my daughter to speak too, please, if she can.
Is that Amy?
This is my daughter, Alexa.
Okay, because we've got a little bit of a time crunch.
She can take my wife's Amy's time.
Okay, go ahead, young lady.
I don't like the mask at all. They're disgusting, and they like get thrown on the ground, they get run over, and still people put them back on, and they make me sad, and I can't hear my friends or talk to them or anything.
Like I said again, I just asked you, this is not about health anymore. This is about a control. And if you force something on a population, we're not free anymore. And then we just go back to 1776. And if y'all need to look at the ninth, I'm telling you, the Constitution, and read it. The Ninth Amendment allows those other freedoms, those freedoms we're talking about right now. And those freedoms are that we have a right to choose. We have a right to vote. We have a right for personal matters on ourselves. You need to take a look at the Ninth Amendment, I'm telling you. Because in court, we will win. We will win every time. And I will sue the state, the government, if the mask becomes law. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Selena Hernandez. Ms. Hernandez in the audience here? I'm going to move to the next person. We have Elizabeth Lopez.
Good evening, members of the board and interim superintendent. I am Elizabeth Lopez and have been a teacher with SISD for 17 years. I am here today to represent my colleagues, my faculty and staff, including our students. I firmly believe that we must provide a conducive learning environment and ensure that all our SISD family are safe. After all, family is everything. And I am adamantly advocating for us all, for our SISD family. It is imperative that a mask mandate be implemented in our school district within this Delta variant surge. I am a proud teacher at Pebble Hills High School and strive to ensure that my students receive a well-rounded education. Thus, it is evidently important to protect all students, teachers, and staff from being infected with COVID and the Delta variant. I have witnessed a vast number of teachers, staff, students from being infected with COVID. I have witnessed my family members being infected with COVID during the pandemic. My father passed away. He had cancer. He had COVID, and that took him away faster. Tomorrow's my birthday, and he won't be celebrating with me. Our children, our colleagues, friends are being affected, and I firmly believe that a mask will prevent that super spreading in our community. a simple gesture of common sense and empathy towards others who have underlying health conditions, such as myself, or the vulnerable. A lot of our children are compromised health-wise as well. I'm in the classroom every single day, and there's students that are coughing, sneezing without a mask. A couple days later or a week later, I receive emails from parents, from students. I'm sick. I cannot come to school and learn. This has to stop, at least for the time being with a surge like Dr. Ocaranza stated. I'm in the classroom. And I urge anyone who thinks otherwise that it's a super spreading environment. The school is breeding with infection. Currently, we're still in the pandemic state. So I encourage anyone who thinks otherwise to step in a teacher's classroom full of 36 students. In our hallways, our congested hallways as well. Step into our shoes and you'll see that we don't feel safe. We need to protect our family with the large student population. And by the way, I do want to commend every educator here in this room. We rocked it during the pandemic with little resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez. Your time is up.
Thank you. Step into a teacher's shoes, especially these high heels that I'm wearing right now. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jesus Ramirez.
Hello, guys. First of all, like Ms. Lopez said, right now the pandemic's not over. Mr. Carranza put on the board, he showed the virus, and something that caught my eye was the virus can evade our immune system. I think that's big. And all I'm asking is, I got 2 grandkids in school, and I would like for the mandate for the mask go on. I fear for their lives. All right, that's all I've got. I like the mask mandate. And good masks are better than other masks. As like Mr. Carranza also stated, if you wear a good mask, it's better than the Kmart brand, which we don't have anymore. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Veronica Hernandez.
President Morales, members of the board, and Interim Superintendent Carmona. My name is Veronica Hernandez, and I serve as president of the 2,000 members of Socorro American Federation of Teachers. Last week, I spoke to you to uphold a mask mandate for Socorro ISD. I reiterate our urge stronger today in conjunction with our health authorities, our state and city officials, and other districts across Texas who have taken action to do the responsible thing of mandating masks for the safety of our students, teachers, and community. I wholeheartedly hope that Socorro ISD will also choose to do the same. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Orlando Ramirez.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Orlando Ramirez, and I'm a proud alumni from Socorro Independent School District. I'm from Socorro High School. And I learned about this today from my sister. She's a medical provider. She's a health provider, doctor, that has moved back to El Paso to serve our community. My father just spoke here. We are here as a family. Growing up in Socorro, one thing that I loved about our community is growing up in a community, everyone helped each other. Everyone raised each other. I was raised by my neighbors. If I was out of line, someone put me in place. We took care of each other, right? It wasn't a political statement. You just took care of each other, right? And right now, doing the right thing, this isn't an I situation, this is a we situation. And we have numbers. I am not a medical professional, but I listen and I read. There's information, follow the data, listen to the data. We're not forcing anyone to do anything long-term. There's clearly a pandemic and we can all be a part of the solution. Part of the school districts, we teach our children to be part of the band, to be part of the football team, to be part of a sport and academic program. And we support each other. Parents, teachers, students, everyone supports each other. Why can't we support each other for a simple solution of putting on something in our face that's gonna help everyone? The sooner we do that, the sooner we can take those masks off, right? So I speak here on behalf of both of my nieces. I have two younger nieces that are super healthy, but are also immunocompromised. They want to be a part of the school system. So if they can't be there in person, they want an alternative. So that's what we're asking for today, is find solutions. And guess what? This isn't everyone here has experienced different situations. We don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. Things can shift. So what's mandated today may not be there tomorrow. We just need to be fluid and understanding and kind and respectful, especially to those teachers. I also have many teachers in my family, and I hear that the troubles they have to go through. My cousins that are nurses, they're overwhelmed in the hospitals. They go home crying because they're supporting people that are not willing to help each other. This is a school. Let's take care of our children. Let's take care of each other and be kind. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chris Mears.
Good evening, President Morales, Interim Superintendent and Board. I think I'm taking a little bit different angle. I'm not going to discuss mask mandates, good, bad, do I think. I want to hit on it from a little different perspective in that throughout all your high school campuses today in the district, students, I think it's 12th grade now, I don't know, we're taking government class. And they're supposed to be taught the different levels of government, right? Federal, what responsibilities fall within the federal government, the state, the different levels of the political subdivisions of the state. And my point today is that you don't have the authority to make this mask mandate. It's been litigated. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, that's not what I'm here to talk about. You don't have the legal authority to do it. It's not going to stand up. It was litigated last year. The Texas Supreme Court ruled in the governor's behalf, not on the necessarily school district, but on a local government trying to override the governor's executive order. It's not going to stand up. And we shouldn't teach our kids when you don't like the law, you ignore it. Okay, and that's essentially what you're doing. There's other ways to put pressure on the governor's office to give control back to the local communities to make their local decisions. There's other ways to pressure the government rather than creating a mask mandate that we know the Texas Attorney General's office has already proven he's going to aggressively defend the governor's mandate. He's going to do it. Two other governments tried to do it. They got district court judges to give them an order saying yes, and the Supreme Court has already halted those orders. So if you pass it and if you issue it, it's going to be rescinded by the Supreme Court quickly. And what's that going to show the kids? Voluntary? Now it's mandatory. Oops, sorry, we're going back to voluntary again because we didn't have the authority to do what we did. That's not the right lesson to give the kids either. Put pressure on the governor if you think that the school district and the county health director should have the authority to base it based on local conditions. Put pressure on the governor's office. Do a campaign, do something. Teach the kids that when you don't like a law, there's ways to change the law. Obviously, there's going to be a hot topic during the next regular legislative session on whether or not the local communities should be able to do it. In the meantime, don't teach kids when you don't like the law, if you don't agree with the law, it's okay to ignore the law because that's not what we should be teaching our kids either. And again, it's not going to be withheld. So you're going to show them, look, we stood up for you, psych. You can go back to choosing whether or not to wear your mask. That's not the mission we should be giving the kids. Is there a good argument to say local government should have more authority? Absolutely. But this isn't the way to do it, passing a mandate that we know the AG's office is aggressively fighting and has been successful. And there's no reason to even remotely believe the Supreme Court of Texas is going to change how they've been doing it, how they've been ruling. And so this is only going to live what? It's Tuesday. If you went into effect Thursday, a few days at the most. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chris Yost.
Good evening. Before I begin, I like how cute you guys' masks are because we are in a pandemic, and like Dr. Acaranza and the people that back him say trust the science. This is the science you need to trust in a biological pandemic. I have degrees in counterterrorism up to including CBRN, okay? This is the only thing that would save your life in a biological thing. And you two gentlemen that served in the military also know the same thing, okay? A piece of cloth and cotton will not protect you. A reinforced charcoal filter will. Do you want to scare our kids any further? Have them walk around 8 hours a day wearing one of these, okay? Here's the next hashtag. Hashtag I can't breathe with this, okay? Stop fearing the kids. With that being said, and I applaud the gentleman that just came up here speaking law, okay? With that, Governor Abbott on July 29th, GA 38, and I quote, no government entity, including a county, city, school district, which you are, and public health authority, which Dr. Acaranza is, and no governmental official may require any person to wear a face covering or mandate to other person to wear one. Again, why are we still having this discussion? The law is the law, okay? Yes, it's an executive order, but if you read that, and I do have a copy if you guys want to have to see what the verbiage is, it clearly says in there that this has the full force of the law, okay? And that was upheld by the Texas Supreme Court this weekend, okay? Another thing, your governing entity, the TEA, or Texas Education Authority, issued on their official Twitter on the 12th, in light of the conflict currently being resolved in the courts between the Executive Order GA38 and certain local orders and actions, TEA is refraining from issuing public health guidance at this time. That's strike 2. Interim Director Carmona said last week she will not give you any authority to do it. That's strike 3. Okay, strike 4 is now here. You guys, if you go ahead and do this, you're all criminals under Texas Penal Code, Chapter 8, all right, or excuse, Title 8, Chapter 39, Abuse of Office, Section 3902, Abuse of Official Capacity. Quote, a public servant commits an offense if, with the intent to obtain a benefit or with intent to harm or defraud another, he intentionally or knowingly, 1, violates a law relating to the public servant's office and employment. Do you guys have the power or authority to decipher law? I thought not, okay? As I did say last week, okay? You continue with these games, we can play it better. We put you in office, we'll take you all out of office. And we'll go after you in your individual capacities, up to including your surety bonds, which will make you effectively ineffective to be in office. Keep pushing it, we're gonna push back. Sig semper tyrannis.
Our next speaker is Lonnie Graham.
Good evening. My name is Lonnie Graham. I'm a mother of 3 kids, 2 of which attend school at James Butler. I'm also a licensed speech-language pathologist. I have practiced mainly in the hospital setting, but I have also contracted with the school district, so I am familiar with the demands and high caseloads of our wonderful school SLPs that they face on a daily basis. I am here to advocate the importance of not mandating masks. Please consider the children that will be harmed by this irrational decision. There are children who have needs, and those needs need to be met. Consider those children who are hard of hearing. By mandating masks, these children cannot adequately read lips, and they hear muffled speech. It can put a strain on these children's social relationships with peers and teachers, and they could fall behind in their work, their learning, and their grades. What about these children who fall on the spectrum. Many of them have goals that target expressive language and pragmatic skills, such as understanding facial expressions, for example. How are these children to understand various facial expressions and practice these strategies that they're learning throughout the day when everyone is wearing a mask? What about those kids that are working on articulation? How can the teacher help the SLP and the student with their strategies? The strategies that are being taught to help them enunciate, to help them articulate. How can they be worked on in the classroom, in their natural setting, if the child is masked and if the teacher is masked and if their peers are masked? These kids, they can't learn these strategies from computers and from workbooks and from parents and teachers alone. They need to be allowed to use these strategies and apply them within their everyday environment. Lastly, what about those kiddos that have sensory issues? Think of a small pebble in your shoe. Though it doesn't hurt, it is a huge annoyance, and that's all you can think about. Nothing else except getting that pebble out of your shoe. That's all these sensory kiddos are thinking about, how and when these masks can come off. They're not focused on the task that is in front of them at that moment. We are setting these children up for failure. You may not think that these skills are important now, but you're wrong. You're deciding how well these kids are going to articulate, problem solve, analyze facial expression and body language as they prepare for middle school, high school, college, job interviews, and their careers. What you decide today affects these kids' future. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Melanie Garcia.
Good evening. I am also an SISD employee. I'm a teacher. I teach adult ed, and this is my 22nd year. For 16 years, I did teach elementary ed, and there are many more viruses out there than COVID-19. Bronchitis is what landed me in the hospital when I was teaching kindergarten at East Point Elementary in Isleta District. I have just some bulleted items because I'm not a doctor. However, I do a lot of my own reading and my own research. And this is from the American Institute for Economic Research. I also emailed Interim Director Carmona with the link to this if any of you are interested, as well as an infographic on how to properly wear a mask, which I can see many people around here who aren't, as you just lifted up yours, Mr. Mena. So this is called Masking Children, Tragic, Unscientific, and Damaging by Paul Alexander, March 10th, 2021. The reasons why masks are not beneficial to children. Children have extremely low risk of contracting SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19. They are not vectors. Children naturally have the capability of avoiding the SARS-CoV-2 virus because they get a lot of colds, as a lot of kids are getting right now, because we are back and we want it normalized. This isn't anything new. Parents knew that we were going to come back normal, but now that all these other mandates are popping up in the state of Texas, we have to follow them. I don't know why that's happening. Masks may obstruct breathing. I don't like to wear them. I choose not to wear them. I haven't worn a mask once at work, and I've been fine this entire time. And also that when I work with the ESL students, when I've been testing them, the ones who are lower, when I'm doing oral tests, they look at my face and they're reading my lips. So I think that with the ESL students, especially the low ones, that you use all your senses, your visual, your hearing, everything. They need to look at facial expressions to help them understand us in English. Masks, surgical and cloth, as currently used, are ineffective in reducing transmission. We're still spreading COVID. And most people are wearing masks. I'm one of the very few that's not wearing a mask. So most people are wearing them. And my son, he also goes to Montwood Middle School. And he said everybody leaves each other alone. Contrary to what Mr. Samaniego had said, on the news last Tuesday that he wants everybody to wear masks so that there's no peer pressure. It's not happening at his school. He said everybody's fine. They're excited to be back. It's normalized for the most part. Masks do not function after 20 minutes due to saturation, being soaked by droplets. I have a friend, her child is autistic. She says it's full of saliva when he wears a mask because he has speech delays. How gross is that? You think that child feels good about that? The human brain is very sensitive to oxygen deprivation. Babies born during 2021 are 21 points lower in their IQ, according to Brown University, because of mask wearing. So we are raising children that are going to be very far behind. And when I get older, I want these children, when they grow up and they have to make laws for me or vote for people, I have to remember these things too. So as a side note,
I'm sorry, your
I know
time.
parents are in charge of their children's health, and I don't think there's a test for the Delta variant. My doctor told me yesterday one doesn't exist, and I would like to know for a specific one. I was just told yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lisa Lopez.
Good evening, board members. I am here because I don't really understand why we are disagreeing on the protection of our children. If we can just take a step back, take a breath, and not see this as a political issue, I think we all agree that we do want to protect our children. There are many things that we do in our schools that you may not practice at your home. One thing that comes to mind are fire drills. We've not had a single fire in our school, but we practice these drills every month. And why? Because it's a precaution. It's just in case something happens. We don't do it just for the kids who believe in fires. We do it for everybody. We have shelter-in-place drills just in case there's severe weather. And we've not had a tornado here in El Paso, but we practice this with everybody because it's a part of our job to protect and prepare our children in our community. The district states that safety is a priority and that they follow the data and the science. And the people we go to, the American Academy of Pediatrics, updated their guidance for face masks, and they recommend children ages 2 and up who are not vaccinated to continue to please wear masks. This is about our kids. Now, I understand the infection rate and death rate is extremely low for our youngest students, and it's true that only a little over 300 deaths have occurred in this age group. And if we want to listen to the facts, it is true that 0.05% children could possibly die from this disease. So if you take that 0.05% and apply it to our SISD student population, that's about 25 kids. And I would like to ask if you think the death of 25 kids is acceptable. Or we can just take a minor precaution and wear a mask to protect our children and our faculty. So people have said that we are infringing on their rights to wear a mask, but what about my rights? Do I not have a right to not be put in harm's way? I want to be at school. I want to be with my students. I don't want to go to virtual or remote learning, but I also want to keep our kids safe. I don't like wearing a mask, but I don't want my actions to possibly harm a child. And if we can just keep each other, if we can just help each other out in the short term, we can get through this. This is temporary. This is not forever. In a matter of weeks, the vaccine for adults will have FDA approval, and later on it will be approved for emergency use for children ages 2 to 12. And then we can see what protections they want to choose. They can take the precaution of getting a vaccine or not. But then, right now, none of our children in the elementary schools have any protection with the vaccine. This past week, we've had a lot of rain, and I don't think there's any parent who didn't want to protect their child from the rain. They had umbrellas, raincoats, and boots, and rain doesn't hurt anybody. So if we can just take a step back and think about this as the base of what it is. It's a virus that could potentially harm our children. There's a quote. Just a quote, what's right is not always popular, but what is popular is not always right. I hope you will do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sammy Carejo.
Just security, they were mumbling things at me as I walked by. Okay. My name is Sammy Carrejo. And like my friend Ronnie, my old friend Ronnie used to say, in God we trust, everything else we verify. That was a pretty interesting presentation. Follow the science. I think that was like third grade science. Did not have much facts in it. It kept using the word a lot and more. Mr. Castellano, in fact, asked Dr. Carranza for some stats, and he couldn't answer. This is a dog and pony show. Just like his meeting was a dog and pony show this morning with City Council. They already knew what they were going to do. So if the city is going to pass that mandate, what are we doing here? The gentleman talked about taxes. Why are they going up? Because we're going to have to pay taxes. Our taxes are going to go up to pay the defense fund. Now, I would love to sit here and just school you a little bit more, but you know what? I'm going to pass my time to a teacher who's going to talk more, because I believe what's best for the children is to hear from a teacher. Go ahead.
Hello, thank you for hearing me out. So I might be the most unpopular teacher at this moment, but it's okay. My dad passed away last year, and he taught me to stand up for what's right, even if you stand alone. And that's what I'm doing today. I come to represent so many students of mine that are miserable with the mask, and I come to defend my rights as well. I know people think that we're infringing on their rights because we're not wearing a mask, but they have the right to choose to wear 1, 2, 3, 100 masks and get vaccinated. How am I getting my rights respected when I am obligated to wear a mask? I'm in the classroom. These masks are ridiculous dirty. You think a kid can really keep the mask on for 8 hours, go to PE, go to recess, eat, go to the bathroom, play around, read, educate, get an education 8 hours with that mask staying clean? It's ridiculous and unrealistic to think that. Now, I respect everybody who wears a mask. I respect them. Good for you, bless your heart. But why am I being obligated to wear a mask? Why is this even happening? You get what you want. You're wearing a mask. Then leave us who don't want a mask alone. We like oxygen. My kids like oxygen. They like to breathe. They literally beg me in the classroom, Miss, please. They come back from PE and they're sweating. They're red from the heat. Please. And I'm like, you know what? Your mom signed the survey. She wants you to wear it. I'm sorry. So I'm doing a disservice to these children by saying, I'm sorry, you have to cover up, while they watch the other kids who are not wearing them breathe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board, I hope you guys do the right thing. Like she said, what's popular is not always best, and what's best is not always popular. And right now, I believe you guys already made up your mind. You're using your emotions. But like when you're in battle, if you go into battle too emotional, you might make the wrong decision. Let's save lives. Let's think logically and make the right decision. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Geneva Rodriguez.
Hello, my name is Geneva Rodriguez. I'm a mother of 4 children who attend Socorro School District. I'm opposing the unjust mask mandate idea. I can't even believe that I'm up here having to speak for my children's God-given right to breathe air freely in the United States of America and not be muzzled like rabid dogs running around in El Paso that you see every day. I'm going to be a voice for my children and all of the children. This school district and board members are trying to decide if they are going to defy the governor of Texas' executive order opposing the mask mandates in schools. I hope you're prepared for the lawsuits that are going to come from the parents for discrimination against their children if you do not let their children attend school without a mask, and from the Attorney General of Texas that parents will all be contacting. I've already written a letter. This is an unlawful mandate if you guys choose to go through with this. I can't even believe it. The schools in Austin and Dallas school districts has already lost their battles in the Supreme Court of Texas. Nobody has the right to decide what is right and best for my child. Are you guys dictators or educators? all of you guys. And I have another one that I just was thinking about. I'm looking around the room at all the teachers here to talk about the masks and beg them for their rooms. Okay, each and every one of you have touched your face at least 10 times. Up here, pulling it, touching it. I'm sorry, but I can't even fathom it. Did they not just go?
Please
Okay.
address the board.
Did you guys all just not listen to the 20-minute speech from the doctor? That's our class that we were just in, spreading as much as you touch your face and your muzzles, all worshiping about the mask, wanting everyone to bow down. You guys are all just the mean little bullies in school, and you are bullying our children. I thought bullying was against the code of conduct. That's it, sorry. I'm very frazzled. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Forgive me if I don't pronounce this properly, but I'm going to do my best. It's Joanna Ochateria. Oh, not bad.
Good evening. I wish Dr. Orcaranza would have stayed because I'm here to debunk everything he just said. So, according to Dr. Fauci, 1919 is what he spoke about, the influenza pandemic. Well, there was hundreds of mask studies related to the influenza transmission done over several decades. It is a well-established fact that masks do not stop viruses. Part of that evidence shows that cloth face masks, everybody here is wearing one, actually increases influenza-like illness. Bacteria are 50 times larger than the virus particles. As such, virus particles can enter through mask pores, yet bacteria remain trapped inside the mask. So the blue medical masks, those should be changed out every 20 to 30 minutes. The cloth masks have no effect whatsoever. And the medical masks, the blue masks, which is the one Dr. Orcaranza was wearing, I believe his was yellow, that's made for sterile environment, guys. Surgical masks, which means we're not in a sterile environment, no effect. So what do we do about that, right? 1919 influenza pandemic. There was almost universal agreement among experts that deaths were virtually never caused by the influenza virus itself. They were resulted directly from severe secondary pneumonia caused by well-known bacteria, pneumopathogens. Now, everybody that has COVID-19 is coming up with now there's a COVID pneumonia. There's no such thing as a COVID pneumonia. It's pneumonia caused by the bacteria in your masks. So Dr. Fauci and his National Institute of Health studied pandemics and epidemics and concluded, this is a fact, ladies and gentlemen, the vast majority of influenza deaths resulted from secondary bacterial pneumonia. So again, all parties mandating the use of face masks are not only willfully ignoring established science. Let's follow the science, right? Let's follow the science, guys. You all are ignoring it. This conclusion reached by the fact that face mask use and COVID-19 incidents are being reported in scientific opinions promoted by the CDC and others. The fact that after reviewing all of the studies worldwide, CDC found no reduction in viral transmission with the use of face masks. So, I mean, here we go. I have a 5-year-old in kinder, didn't go to school last year because we did the home thing, right? She is not vaccinated, never been vaccinated, has not gotten COVID. I don't have COVID. I've never worn a mask. My other daughter in high school has never worn a mask. Nobody's received or contacted COVID. And my 5-year-old is at school and she can't recognize her teacher. Like Ms. Garcia was saying, this affects their psyche. It affects their character, their personality, their emotions, their communication. I will not put my daughter in a mask. I will not put any daughter in a mask. And because I am a mother of 3, my should have been 22-year-old was murdered 5 years ago, I will not let lies and a filthy mask take my other kids out either. So I hope you listen to the science. I know my time is up. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Brianna Ordonez.
Good evening. I don't like masks. When I'm wearing the mask in school and I'm going up and down the stairs, I get short of breath. Moreover, to my agreement, you are breathing the same air, literally the same air, carbon dioxide, that the body is releasing. It's toxic to the human body. You are poisoning yourself. What we need is oxygen that's already in the air. The flu kills more people than COVID, and we never wore a mask for the flu. We also got the flu vaccine, and no one had to wear a mask. Please don't put the mask on people. It's hard to breathe, and it's hard for everything we do.
The next speaker is Dr. James Payne.
I would just like to say that I was wearing a mask every day to work long before it was popular, and I expect to be wearing a mask every day to work for many years continuous. So I'm 100% pro-mask. And the other thing I want to say is, and my kids have really loved Socorro Independent School District. All the activities and the teachers and the after-school options have all been wonderful. And we loved art class and cooking class and Lego class. We love that. I needed to say some of the good things. It feels like there are kind of sides talking past each other. Emotions run high. I'm from the Bible Belt. It kind of feels like that kind of religious environment. I would like to speak a little bit more calmly and coolly. Okay? There was this really great natural experiment last year in the state of Florida. Some districts mandated masks for everybody. Some school districts mandated masks for adults only, school staff, and some districts mandated nothing. And so Dr. Oster and Dr. Halloran et al. Have done a really interesting study. It's under peer review right now. If any of you are interested in reading it, I'd be happy to send it to you. It compares the infection rates of COVID-19 between students and adults across districts. Some very interesting things have been elucidated. First is that there is no difference in children's COVID positivity between no masks, adults masks, and everybody masks across the only state where this study has been done. So if we're talking about hard data, that's the hard data. There is some variation in parents, or not, sorry, my mistake, not parents, in staff's positivity rates, not morbidity, mortality, but positivity rates between no masks and everyone wears masks. The really interesting thing is that there is no difference, statistically or otherwise, between districts that mandate adults wear masks and districts that have no masks. That's pretty interesting. I would sure be interested in that. And when we're considering a choice, I would think, first question, is the intervention you're considering, does it address the problem? Is there a way to address this problem in an easier way? I propose to you that before taking this momentous decision, you maybe look at some of the less invasive options that have worked over hundreds of thousands of people. And so I would encourage you to say, if you're worried about only kids, positivity rates don't change whatever the mass situations. If you're worried about staff, and I would be worried about staff, we love our teachers, we love our principals, we love our school, and I would say those teachers ought to mask up. Wear a good mask, as I said last time. And of course, don't touch your face and all that. Once again, love Socorro, great district, great activities. Please look into alternative measures. Please review it. And, you know, vaccine drives, great idea at the school. Let's have vaccine drives. Let's get people vaccinated if they're 12 and up.
Thank you, Dr. Payne.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And our final speaker is Dr. Stephen Purdy.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak also. I think there's been a little bit of a disconnect. I think, like Dr. Payne said, there's a lot of science talking past each other. Some things are true that seem pretty obvious, and some things are a little bit more nuanced. I think one of the biggest problems I've had is some of the draconian measures that have been put in place with the kids. Last year, I allowed my son to go back to school, and his recess consisted of walking in a circle around the blacktop with 6 feet apart from his peers with masks on outside. That's a little bit too much, okay? These kids, they haven't seen each other face to face. Of course, kids are gonna get sick when they go back to school. We can expect that. It happens every year. And some of the data that was presented to you is missing some context. Half of the kids who are being hospitalized with COVID didn't go there because they're sick with COVID. They went there, appendicitis, they broke their arm, everyone gets swabbed. Oh, he's in there with COVID. With COVID, not because he's sick with COVID, half, okay? I can show you the reports on that. This pandemic is gonna become endemic. And if you have an immunocompromised kid and you think that's gonna prevent them from getting COVID, I strongly discourage you from sending your kid to school if they are immunocompromised and you expect that to save them, okay? That's been explained several times. They need something better or they shouldn't go. But for the rest of the community, people are gonna get COVID, they're gonna get sick. And that's just a part of coronaviruses. There's 4 strains that have been going around the world for thousands of years. And this one is gonna be another variant and another variant. So it's not gonna go away. And the kids who didn't get the original COVID now can get Delta. And instead of building up their immunity, if you isolate them and put them in a bubble, then the next variant that comes along, they're not gonna be ready for it. And by isolating your kids and putting them in a bubble, I think you're making things worse. And you're also affecting them emotionally. Tons of kids have dropped out of sports. You should look into that. How many kids used to be active and now they're not? There's an obesity epidemic in this country. The kids are sedentary. They need to be healthy, they need to be active, they need to be social. And by isolating these kids, you're gonna make them more compromised to future infections. And you get vaccinated, you get Delta after you get vaccinated, great, you just got a booster. And you need to look at it that way because it's not going away. People are not gonna avoid COVID in the future.
Thank you, Dr.
It's gonna be around, okay?
Appreciate it, thank you. We're going to go ahead and move into item 9G this time. It was a combination of 9F and 9G. Go ahead and read that before Mr. Blanco speaks as a presenter. A discussion and possible action regarding legal options, including possible or pending litigation, to address local government authority to require face covering mask policies and procedures under Executive Order G838 issued by Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Our presenter is Steve Blanco.
Thank you, Board President Morales, Interim Superintendent, Ms. Carmona, members of the board. I'm Steve Blanco, legal counsel for the district. We have been discussing item 9F, which was the discussion that we had so that we could invite Dr. Ocaranza to make a presentation. You've heard from the community as well. I'd like to take 9F and 9G, these 2 items, into a closed session so I can update the board on the current status of the legal affairs going on. There are a number of lawsuits, including a lawsuit that was filed earlier today by the city of El Paso. I have some updates on that, and we want to discuss options for the district concerning that litigation and other pending matters. So at this time, I would ask the board to entertain a motion to move items 9F and 9G into executive session to discuss legal issues with legal counsel under section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code.
Motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Cindy Nahara and a second by Mr. Eddie Mena. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. At this time, the meeting is to be closed for consultation with our legal counsel regarding items 9F and 9G. The time is 8:05. We are back. The time is 8:40 from closed session. Item 9F. Discussion and possible action regarding district-wide face covering / mask policies and procedures to include possible presentation from city and/or county health authorities to facilitate the discussion and provide necessary information for consideration and review by the board. Presenter, our attorney, Steve Blanco.
Thank you, Board President Morales, Interim Superintendent Ms. Carmona, and members of the board. So with 9F and 9G, we can really combine these two. 9G is discussion and possible action regarding legal options, including possible or pending litigation to address local government authority to require face covering, mask policies and procedures under Executive Order GA 38 issued by Texas Governor Greg Abbott. So in the closed session, I gave the board an update on the current status of the litigation from the various school districts and entities, including the lawsuit that was filed this morning by the city of El Paso and plans that are tied to that lawsuit by the City County Health Authority, and you heard Dr. Ocaranza speak earlier today. Based on the current information that we have and the current status of the litigation, I have briefed the board, and I understand that the board would like to entertain a motion regarding action to be taken regarding items 9F and 9G.
I move that the Socorro ISD follow local health authority mandated unless and until ruled invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction.
Second.
A motion was made by Mr. Pablo Barrera and a second by Mr. Michael Nahara to support
So
the
the
motion that Mr. Barrera made.
Yeah, and just so that we're clear, that motion is to allow the district to follow the local health authority mandates unless and until those mandates, when issued, are ruled invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction. That's where we're at.
Any other discussion or question? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 6, public hearing, 6A, 2021-2023 ESSER 2 federal grant public hearing.
President Morales.
Presenter.
President Morales, if it's okay with the board, if it's okay with the rest of the board members, if we could move item 9H, discussion and possible action to nominate Armando Rodriguez. We have we have board member Sergio Coronado on the audience, and if we could move that item up before that item, if that's okay with the rest of the board.
We have a
Board's okay with
motion.
that? Can I make a
Second.
motion to move that item up, please?
Second.
A motion by Mr. Paul Guerra and a second by Mr. Pablo Barrera to go ahead and move the item 9H, discussion and possible action to nominate Armando Rodriguez to fill the vacancy on Region 19 on the Texas Board of School Board, TASB, Board of Directors. The term of this position is for 3 years, beginning at the close of the 2021 annual TASA/TASB convention and expiring after convention 2024.
If I could just move that item up to
We
speed.
have an opportunity here. Do we need we're going to go ahead and have a motion to move on that? We did. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and yield my presentation time to Mr. Sergio Coronado. He was signed up to speak during the open forum, and so this time he'll have his opportunity to speak.
Thank you, board members.
Good evening, Honorable President Morales, Honorable Trustees of the Socorro Independent School District, and Interim Superintendent Carmona. I bring you greetings from my humble but proud community of Canutillo. I am an elected trustee in that district. I am, of course, came seeking your support for Armando Rodriguez, one of our trustees that a lot of you know. We support each other as a district. I want you to know Mr. Rodriguez was one of the first youngest elected officials in this county, as you all very well probably remember. And he is currently serving on the Texas Association of School Boards. He was serving as a secretary treasurer. He has now been nominated to serve as second vice president to the Texas Association of School Boards. He will stand in line to be president of the Texas Association of School Boards within the next couple of years. This has not happened that we've had an officer on the Texas Association of School Boards from El Paso, from Region 19, in 20-some years. And before that, only two other gentlemen served as officers in the Texas Association of School Boards. As you all are well aware, Armando stands full with respect to equity. He has served as president of the Mexican-American School Board Association here in Texas and sat as the chair of the National Hispanic Council nationally at the National School Boards Association. Mando, a lot of you know him well. He's all about equity, about opportunities for students, and we wish the city of Socorro, the district of Socorro, and all your staff, students, nothing but health and wellness from our community to yours. We've considered each other more like sister districts, even though we're far ends of the county of El Paso. And I thank you for your service as the city, as your district name entails, Socorro. For those of you that don't remember, it refers to auxilio, which means help during emergencies. It's a tough, I know firsthand how tough it is to make these kinds of decisions, but I know that you all are doing your best to make sure that your entire community has the benefit of your expertise in each one of your own, whether it be profession or as a member of the community, that you all do and serve this community well. And so on behalf of our district of Canutillo, just want to let you know that we have also voted for Armando, both Fabens, Del City, Clint, and tonight El Paso Independent School District is taking up the same item. Isleta will vote next week. Both Del City, Fabens, and Sierra Blanca, Del City have all voted for Armando. He is well on his way to serve us again on the Texas Association of School Boards. Thank you all so very, very much, and I wish our community well and nothing but success and health, good health in this coming year. Thank you, Board.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
move to nominate Armando Rodriguez to fill the vacancy on the Region 19, for Region 19 on the Texas Board of School Board of Directors.
Second.
Second.
Please, no comment. Please. Escort this gentleman out, please.
Please.
Please escort this gentleman out. Please escort this gentleman out, please. There's a reason for, we don't need that kind and this outburst now, please.
I seconded.
You go ahead and take care of that for us. Thank you.
So again, I nominate Armando Rodriguez to fill the vacancy for Region 19 for the TASB Board of Directors.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Michael Nahara and a second by Mr. Pablo Barrera. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. We're going to continue with item, going back to public hearings, item 6A, once again, 2021-2023 ESSER 2 federal grant public hearing. Our presenters are going to be Ms. Lucy Borrego and Dr. Adam Starkey.
Good evening, Board President Morales and Interim Superintendent Martha Carmona and Board of Trustees. Thank you for having us today. We are now back with ESSER 2 in back order. We brought you ESSER 3, and today we're going to have a public hearing on ESSER 2. We are very proud to present today's public hearing as what the needs that were not met with ESSER 3. I feel as a cabinet and Ms. Carmona as a superintendent, we worked very hard and very diligently to be able to serve our students during this pandemic and these gaps that our students have. I think you're going to be quite pleased to hear what we are going to present, which also includes, and we've heard it a couple of times tonight, the cabinet and Ms. Carmona were adamant that our teachers, our hardworking teachers, employees, bus drivers, everybody that's eligible in our district to receive that $2,000 stipend as we go on this school year. And Dr. Starkey will speak a little bit more to that. We also are going to talk about fine arts and physical education as well, because that's a need of our students as well, and he'll present that in our presentation today. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Starkey.
Thank you, Ms. Borrego. Good evening, President Morales, members of the board, and Mrs. Carmona. We are going to go ahead and continue with our ESSER 2 presentation. Of course, again, that comes right on the heels of ESSER 3, so we are setting up a whole big constellation for addressing some really good things when you put those two together. Okay, so our ESSER 2 2021-2023 plan. Okay, with the ESSER 2, okay, unlike ESSER 3, which is 3 years, ESSER 2 is good for 2 years through 2022-2023 school year, after which there is no assurance of receipt of additional funding of this type. And our ESSER 2 plan, as Ms. Borrego mentioned, has been designed to fill allowable pandemic-related needs that are additional to what has been planned what was planned in ESSER 3. We took the biggest priorities in ESSER 3 after getting all of the stakeholder input, and then what was left from that input, we went ahead and we merged that into the ESSER 2, which we knew was becoming available, so we could attempt to round it out and meet the greater needs. And Ms. Borrego did say this, and once again, it has been mentioned a couple of times during the proceedings tonight. During this 21-22 school year, all SISD employees who meet eligibility requirements will receive a one-time $2,000 employee retention payment through ESSER 2 funding. That will be happening. Okay. Next thing that we are going to have is, in ESSER 3, each campus has received a supplemental allotment that will address some specific needs that they have, and we discussed that the last time. At the district level, we are going to use ESSER 2 funding to support all campuses, district-wide curricular instructional support, instructional materials, professional development, in terms of continuing to grow and expand our teachers, our leadership, to be able to help our students through various initiatives over this 2-year period. Okay. Fine arts. In ESSER 3, if you recall, we took care of a lot of core areas. We were focusing on the core areas. Fine arts, the academic learning loss, social emotional aspects identified in the ESSER 3 plan focused on cores. But now we're looking at the fine arts at this time. One thing we have is additional instruments that are going to be purchased for the band, orchestra, guitar, and mariachi programs at the middle school and high school level. That's pandemic related because people will no longer have to share instruments. It's also related to learning loss because now they can take it home and they can have their own. Okay. We also have looked in with everyone and our fellow colleagues in the district to get these next ideas for learning loss in fine arts. Supplemental instructional lessons for through contracted services, band, choir, orchestra, guitar, mariachi, dance, and theater to close gaps. and interactive software program focusing on music enrichment that we are looking at. Grades pre-K through 12, all grades, all students will now have their own art supplies from 3 years old all the way to the 12th grade. And that's going to help with learning loss there, and it also promotes safety considerations. And we have one position with Fine Arts, which is a Fine Arts Digital Media Communication Coordinator. It's going to be like a Fine Arts instructional officer, and it's also going to be somewhat of an instructional facilitator and also someone who helps to bring students back and grow the programs. I know that there was a comment made in the open forum about people leaving electives and extracurriculars and leaving sports. Well, this is someone who's going to do instruction and get some of that back for our fine arts kiddos and keep them, I believe it's to score a 1. That we want to make sure that they keep doing that, right? And physical education, also something we don't want people to be, what we decided as we talked in a large group about this to get this ready, we don't want learning loss, and social emotional is just as well important in that. We don't want people to be sedentary anymore. We want them to be active. And learning loss in that can be content related, and it can also be physical. I know that maybe I shouldn't be humorous, but I said that whatever we get them, I was going to go join them. Okay, we have we have equipment additions and upgrades for all physical education classes in grades pre-K through 12 coming. New activities that will assist them in closing gaps in physical shape, as well as increased student safety as part of the physical education experience. Because if you have more things that they can use, then the sharing, once again, like in fine arts, it will be minimized. Okay. We're also looking at a character building program that we're going to have social emotional initiatives in middle schools and high schools, and it's going to be through health and physical education and hopefully expand from there. We also are going to have a similar position, just like in the fine arts, where we have like an instructional officer, facilitator for physical education and health to continue to promote those instructional areas. And if you recall in ESSER 3, we're looking for a lot of instructional officers in different areas, different contents, different disciplines, and this also speaks to that. And we also will have, we're looking at an interactive instructional software program that we are going to have for that is a socially distanced, safe, integrated program that every SISD elementary school will have for use in their physical education classrooms, and it checks off all the boxes for learning loss and for safety and social emotional learning. And then finally, we are still in a pandemic, and going forward, there's going to be needs that are going to be allowable that we just feel that in ESSER 3, we identified every dollar. In ESSER 2, we identified all but just this. And what we sat and talked about, okay, and apolitically, I will just say the word delta, it's something that has emerged. And we are going to just have this small reservation. It's not small. I mean, nobody would say $4 million is a little bit, but when compared to everything else that we've been able to appropriate, we're going to hold on to this to make sure that we have something for anything that is pandemic related that emerges in this period of time. And that is the conclusion of our ESSER 2 public hearing, which completes the series, if you will, of these public hearings that we have had with these federal monies. I thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Starkey. Ms. Borrego?
And this is the purpose of this public hearing is to provide the opportunity for the public to have any discussion that they'd like to have. So we would solicit President Morales any public input at this time to include questions and comments related to this presentation.
Yes, we do have one speaker, Ms. Veronica Hernandez. She did sign up an open forum. My pleasure.
Good evening again, President Morales, members of the board, and Interim Superintendent Carmona. Again, my name is Veronica Hernandez, and I represent the 2,000 members of the Socorro American Federation of Teachers. I wanted to address the ESSER funds in our district, and I applaud the administration for the wise decisions of the distribution of the ESSER 3 funds. We also support strongly the administration's proposal tonight on the use of ESSER 2 funds. In doing so, I'd also like to take this minute to thank all of our members here at the local, the state, and the national level for all their advocacy to assure that this funds got down to the schools. Thank you. Socorro AFT, again, like I said, we support the administration's proposal of the use of ESSER 2 funds, especially all of our SISD employees, our classroom personnel. They feel overwhelmed as it is. Ms. Borrego stated last week before the board that specifically the bonus was for all the extra work that will be required. We certainly agree. And we support that big proposal of $2,000 and applaud them. I really thank you for doing all your work for that. We also need to make sure that we continue the hiring of the additional staff. Particularly right now, a big need is our nurses and our nurses' aides, technology and staff resources. And let's not forget, several of our schools are still in dire need of ventilation upgrades. Also very urgently, Socorro AFT would like you to consider an extension, a local extension of the FFCRA-like benefits related to the COVID-19 exposure. We would ask for the restoration of the 10-day or 80-hour quarantine benefit, of the restoration of the sick days employees have been forced to take by administration while this relief is being debated at the cabinet level. It is the position of our state's organization's government relations team that the ESSER funds are completely appropriate to utilize for such a program. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. I would like to add something. Anything else, Ms. Borrego?
No, I just wanted to entertain any questions. Either of us can answer for you.
I would just like to commend you for assisting and working with Mr. Starkey and having, I know how difficult it is to exert these funds, especially federal, and I know you had a lot to do with allowing this 2021 2022 Employee Retention Initiative. I commend you. Thank you for that and helping our teachers and our employees.
Thank you, sir.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
President Morales.
Mr. Barrera, go ahead.
I have a question. When you guys talked about the fine arts, are art teachers also going to be addressed at the elementary level? Is that part of it?
Yes, sir. It's entire 3-year-olds all the way to 12th, and it's almost, we saw other districts putting $0 to $1 million. We're putting almost $5 million into our fine arts because we think that's very important, and to our physical education as well, which encompasses many things.
Okay. So those are pretty much those two entities of physical. We're going to address the social emotional part of it, and we're also addressing the physical and the well-being of our students, right?
Yes, sir. So we're a lot of the public comment that we got today about vitamins and health and not being sedentary, even the mental health, we're going to address it all in both. And we know that fine arts and any type of physical activity brings good physical and mental health to our kiddos.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'd like to commend you guys for the work you did, especially recognizing the retention, the $2,000 retention bonus for the employees. It's been a hard, pretty much 2 years with this pandemic, and it's still ongoing. And to show that, given that extra incentive to do the job that they do that's tough and it's hard, I really appreciate it. And I know they are out there real happy tonight. Also on the fine arts, I would like to thank Mr. Martinez for his work.
Yes.
In putting together that package and identifying the needs of our students. It's been a long time coming, and this district needs to stand up and stand proud and hold up against those people from the east side of Texas, in fine arts, and say we can do it too.
Yes, sir.
And not fall behind because we lack, an instrument or costumes for a drama play or something. And I thank you guys for your hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Castellano, and I want to tell you that the cabinet, we worked diligently as a team and worked hard and pushed on each other, and every single cabinet member, Ms. Carmona, advocated for teachers and for students. That was always what we had in mind, and we felt very strongly about the fine arts and about the physical education aspect,
And it's
because
well
that's going to play.
reflected in this, and I appreciate the
Thank
hard
you.
work you all put in for it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, appreciate it.
President Morales?
Go ahead, Mr. Guerra.
Just one last thing. I know I've been talking to Mr. Campoyo, Mr. Rellinger, and Mr. Reza, and both associations brought up today regarding to COVID. I know last year was a federal law. We need to look into the days of the COVID, because we have the teachers who are missing days, and I think that's very important, because they're missing their own days, whether it's 10 days or 14 days, and I know that was a federal law. We need to see if we can use some ESSER days or some ESSER funding, so they won't use their own days, and see how we can compensate the teachers for those, and for that monies, see how we could use those days, or that funding to use those days for them.
We will defer to HR and we'll take it to cabinet as for discussion. Yes, sir.
Thank you. And any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yes, sir. We're going to continue. We're going to move into item 6B, proposed 2020-2021 tax rate public hearing. Our presenter is Tony Reza.
Yes, President Morales, Interim Superintendent Carmona, and members of the board. Tonight, we're conducting a public hearing on the proposed tax rate for the Socorro Independent School District for the fiscal year 21-22. The notice of this hearing with the time and date was published in the El Paso Times on August the 5th, which was a Thursday. So for the public's benefit, we're going to present the budget that was adopted by the board back in June. The board namely adopted three budgets: the general fund budget, the child nutrition program budget, and the debt service budget. The grand total of these three combined budgets was $556,322,097, and that represents a 1.46% decrease from the ending fiscal year 21 revised budget. So with respect to the assessed property values, the general fund tax collections were based on the assumption that our adjusted taxable property values would be $11.5 billion, or an increase of 7.12%. Our actual values came in at $11.9 billion, which was an increase of 10.34% from the prior year. So the Texas Education Agency uses the net taxable property values of the district to determine our maximum compressed tax rate for the district. So the actual certified taxable values came in at $12.8 billion, which represented a 10.91% increase from the prior year. So let's look at how these values impacted the proposed maintenance and operations tax rate for the district. So House Bill 3 requires a compression or a reduction in the district's maintenance and operations tax rate based on the increase of the district's property values. Here for your review is a comparison of the tax rate for the prior year as well as the tax rate that was presented to the board in June during the adoption of the budget. What we were proposing, and then also what we're finally proposing on the right side, which is our certified values. In June, we projected property value growth to be 7.12%, therefore reducing the maximum compressed tax rate, what we call the MCR, to 85.58. Now, House Bill 3 allows the district to increase that rate by 5 pennies to Socorro ISD, and in so doing, we generate about $23 million of state funding, what we call Tier 2 funding. So in June, we published an MO tax rate of 0.9058. Our certified values came in, and our values actually grew by 10.91%, so that reduced our MCR to 82.65. And when you add the 5 pennies, what we're proposing for maintenance and operations is 87.65. Now, how does that impact the average resident in Socorro ISD? So as published in the El Paso Times, presented as a tax impact on the average resident for Socorro ISD, the increase in property values has resulted in a property tax rate decrease of 6.79 cents from the prior year. However, but as you can see, there's an 11% increase in the average taxable value of the average homeowner. We have no control over that. That's set by the Central Appraisal District, that's set by the market. What this board has the control over is adopting the tax rate. And what we're proposing is almost a 7-cent tax rate decrease. However, with that 11% increase, what we're looking at is an impact of about $86.40 on the average homeowner here at Socorro ISD. Also listed at the bottom is the highest rate that a Board of Trustees can adopt without holding a voter approval tax rate election, what is known as a VATER, okay? And that's the $1.275454. Now, as mentioned before, and is required by Section 44.004 of the Texas Education Code, the administration published a notice of this public hearing in the El Paso Times on August the 5th. That notice listed the time and date of this hearing, as well as the intent to adopt or propose the following tax rates. For maintenance and operations, a tax rate of 0.876500 per $100 of assessed valuation. For the interest and sinking fund, a tax rate of 0.398954 per $100 of tax assessed valuation. For a total tax rate of $1.2754, which represents a 6.79 cent decrease from the prior year. Now, the governing board will consider approving the proposed tax rates and the resolution setting the tax rate later in this board meeting. Now, while school districts are not required to publish it, we must calculate what's called the no new revenue tax rate. It kind of replaces the effective tax rate. Now, this is the rate that would produce the same property tax revenue in the coming year as is in the prior year if applied to the same properties. It is not the tax rate that would allow the district to maintain the same total revenue per student as compared to the prior year because it ignores state aid. And that's the rate that we do publish. It also is not the proposed tax rate. What we're proposing, the tax rate is the MCR plus the 5 cents plus the interest and sinking fund tax rate. Now, the reason I'm providing you this information is this. The law says that if our no new revenue tax rate is lower than the proposed tax rate, and right now the no new revenue is $1.25, then this requires additional language in the resolution that you're going to adopt that sets the tax rates, number one. It also requires certain actions by the board. Number one is there's a specific language that you have to state when you're proposing the motion to adopt the resolution. And you have a copy of the resolution and a cover sheet which shows the language, number one. Number two, it requires a record vote. So each one of you has to state whether you approve the resolution or not. And three, it requires a supermajority of the vote for the resolution to be approved. That means that 5 of the 7 have to approve this resolution. So I just wanted to mention that fact because you have that resolution there. So what you have here is the historical timeline of the tax rates adopted by the board since 2014. And as you can see, the district had the same overall tax rate from 2014 through 2017. And then we had a tax increase in 2018 because of the successful bond election in November of 17. And for the last 3 years, the district has decreased the tax rate. And I mean decreased the tax rate by 10 cents. So presented is a listing of the proposed tax rates for the surrounding school district. So it's important to keep in mind that we're comparing school districts to school districts. We don't compare school districts to the city or the county. It's comparing apples to oranges, right? It's like comparing the Cowboys to the Rockets. How do you do that? So what it's important to note here is that Socorro ISD has the lowest maintenance and operations tax rate of the 3 largest school districts. And also it has the the 3rd lowest tax rate in the region. So these are the rates that I got from the surrounding school districts, either through looking at their published proposed tax rates or actually calling them. So, and then what you can see is that when it comes to the interest and sinking fund tax rate, the INS tax rates, those school districts who've had a bond election, either because they're growing, like Socorro ISD, or they're reinventing themselves, like other districts, have a higher INS tax rate. So again, this is the current, I guess, history, or I should say, tax rates of the surrounding school districts. Now, this is a public hearing. Are there any questions on the presentation? Danny left? Okay. Well, we still have to solicit, President Morales, the board still needs to solicit input from the community since this is a public hearing.
Do we have any questions? Anything from the public? Anybody have any questions publicly? This time, Mr. Ressa is here to answer any questions you may have. With that said, thank you, Mr. Ressa.
Thank you, sir.
We're going to move to our next item. District reports, 7A, facility reports. Our presenters, Mr. Tom Ianton.
Good evening, President Morales, Interim Superintendent Carmona, members of the board. The facility report will begin on page 34, and we will probably have some updated sheets in there so you can probably follow along on the presentation. The Socorro High School, we moved into over 300 and something thousand square feet 3 weeks ago. And as I stated back then and a couple of months ago, we're still not finished. We are still working on all of our projects. These are a little bit different than a normal construction project would entail. The contractors are going to be there, so we are they're working there, and they're not going to go anywhere until we are completely completed with all the phases of the school. We are moving into the second phase, which is the, well, here you can see the bus drop-off. I believe the transportation people spoke to you on this particular bus drop-off, the automotive lab, the yard conference room, and a typical classroom, cosmetology, and the hallway by the library area. And then the nurses' suite, and then, of course, the dining room. The dining room, we are working on the graphics and the wayfinding signage and stuff will not be complete until the fall intersession, because there's a lot of good, nice graphics and stuff that goes on the windows and are on the walls and stuff. So we will continue to be working on that. And then we are in the final stages of getting our kitchen turned over so we can start utilizing our new kitchen. Montwood High School, there again, we opened up that. We are moving into finishing some science labs and continue to working on various areas on the school. This you can see is the new auditorium. The left picture is the stage area looking back towards the seats, and then of course you can see the auditorium seating. This is the entry area, or the entry vestibule. It is still being worked on. You can see there's some furniture that hasn't been completely removed and stuff, but we have occupancy on these areas. Of course, the exterior, this is the way the front entrance looks on the left, and then towards the back of the building where the drop-off area and the fine arts back of the stage is. The next one is America's High School. We took possession of some more of the fine arts facility and the kitchen area. The kitchen is a similar, the cafeteria is as similar as Socorro. It will be getting some graphics and some wayfinding signage and stuff as we proceed into it. But you can see that the little addition, the alternate number 1, which is the food science and classroom on the left-hand side, and then you can see the fine arts addition, how it is added into the new building. And then we are working on the some demolition on the inside. It's totally sealed off, and we are working on the fine arts demos in those areas. And here you can see some new science labs in the various areas. Next one is El Dorado. El Dorado, we took possession of some of the classroom facilities, some of the science labs, and we've been utilizing some of the existing building. Here's the new special education room, a collaboration room, and it's got a movable partition that can be increased to a larger room. The new kitchen exhaust hood and refrigeration in the kitchen area, and then we're putting the AC or the new refrigerations in the locker rooms, which was a part of the, that was one of the areas that was not HVAC, it was evaporated coolers. And then we're continuing to work on the new gallery area, which is an addition to one of the ends of the building. This is showing the tilt wall panels coming up, and we're getting ready to put the structural in there and put the roofing on it. The new student activity complex, we had a pre-proposal or pre-bid conference last week, a week ago today, exactly on the 10th. It has been put out for proposals. We had I believe it was six general contractors show up to the pre-bid conference, which is probably quite a few contractors that are interested in looking at this project and providing a proposal on it. We anticipate that the proposals will be coming in mid-September, September the 16th, I believe, and we will then take it to the facility committee, and we'll be bringing it to the October meeting for approval at that time. The auxiliary gyms, the first phase, they're in utilization. We've been using those, have been using them for some time. The second phase, we did finally receive all of our TCOs on all of the the 5 additional gyms in package number 2, bid package number 2. So the campuses are utilizing those facilities as we speak. We're still doing punch list and finishing up those items as we speak. And then the final phase is the package number 3, which consists of the Valley schools. And those schools are actually moving along fairly fast. They have until January to complete, but I foresee them being complete ahead of schedule. This is actually phase 2. You can see some of the finished gyms in phase 2. And I guess this is phase 3 that I spoke out of turn on. As you can see, they're as close or getting pretty close to what we just turned over to you in phase 2, Campestre and Escontrias. Waco, we're doing a lot of interior work, and the Hilly, the canopy connection. So as I stated, these projects are moving along pretty fast, and they're not contractually supposed to be complete until January, but I feel pretty confident that we will receive those schools before then. Here's some more picture of Rojas. Support services, the building next door to us, it is complete. We've got TCOs on that, and we are getting ready to start the big move into that building where a lot of the people from the Valley will come up and occupy that space. And then some of the people in this building will move into that building, which would vacate some of the areas in our in this building that we can expand into. And you can see that they've done the front entrance, the loop and the canopies, and then the picture on the right is the flex area. We are anticipating the flexitorium seating coming in about 30 days maybe, and those will be the accordion bleacher seating that will be kind of a lecture hall type arrangement in the flexitorium area. Second floor, looking down, and then the second floor main hallway. Pebble Hills sports lighting is coming along. That should be in its final stages. We should be completing those here in the next 3 or 4 weeks, not months. And you can see that the netting is going up, and we've got the poles going up at the baseball and softball field. Similar situation at East Lake. The poles are being installed, and the lights are going up. The new combo school, and I think there's an agenda item after me that Mr. Escobar is going to be presenting, but the combo school is moving. The elementary school is supposed to be complete July of this next year, 2022, and the middle school December of 2022. As you can see on the left-hand side, the area that is kind of the ground area is the configuration of the middle school, and then you can see the aerial of the elementary school on the opposite side, looking back towards the middle school. And you can see that we've got interior drywall going up, a lot of framing on the inside. The elementary cafeteria is being framed in and dried in. The second floor elementary floor where the classrooms, the academic classrooms will be going in, that's starting to be framing in the elementary stage area. And the last project remaining in the 2017 bond is the maintenance and operation facility, and we are still in design work on that. And that completes my report. I'll entertain any questions.
Mr. Morales, President Morales.
Yes, sir, Mr. Barrera, go ahead.
Mr. Iington, just 2 things real quick. What's the update on the restrooms for the elementaries down in the valley?
We are looking at them. My staff has been looking at them to see what we can start doing internally with our budget to start upgrading the toilet partitions and any type of flooring on that.
Okay, and then my last question is, I know the kitchen at Socorro High School wasn't up yet, the new one. Where does that stand?
We had the system, the fire marshal was out there yesterday and I believe today, and we're trying to get the Ansel system approved through the fire marshal. It's been a chore working with all the fire marshals, but hopefully as soon as we get the TCO, which is the temporary certificate of occupancy from the fire marshal, he signs off, then Ms. Janowski calls in the state health department to do the health survey. So if we get that done here in the next day or so, we can get the health inspection done, and then hopefully over the weekend, could be as early as next Monday that we could start utilizing that. But it all depends on what the fire marshal says on the Ansel system.
Thank you.
Mr. Morales, I have a question.
Go ahead.
And Mr. Iington, I have a question on the transportation, the canopy that's going up in between.
Yes, thank you. We did that. We received bids on that this month, a week or so ago. Monday, we're going to do our analysis. We had 2 proposals come in. They're within the budget, both of them. So the team is going to review and evaluate the bids, and then we'll bring a recommendation to the board for that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Maiconada.
Barrington, with the downpours that we've had over the last 2 weeks, I know some of our facilities were affected. Any claims that you foresee coming out of that?
Yes, yeah, I do foresee some claims. I mean, knock on wood, we finally got this building fixed. I had to get involved and had to get another roofer out here and another consultant, and we finally, I think the head custodian here, Daniel, told me this morning, no leaks tonight, so that's progress. On the other ones, especially on the ones under construction, I know that some of y'all have received emails or text or notifications. We're still covered on anything under construction under their builder's risk insurance and or their bonds. We still hold their bonds. The builder risk insurance on anything that is damaged during construction. You know, let's just say, well, I'll bring up El Dorado. We had leaks in the gymnasium, and it could possibly damage the floor. Well, that's a part of construction, and if we deem that the floor needs to be replaced, then it gets paid by that insurance.
Okay.
So yes, we're covered.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
President
Mr.
Morales, I got
Are there
one
any
more.
other, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Barrett.
I know the alarms are going off in Sierra Vista. It's just curious for the public, the update on that.
Yes, the alarms, we've had some issues with some of the alarms. The weather hadn't been very happy with the rain and everything else. On some of the construction projects, we were able to tweak the sensitivity of the alarms because, for instance, Socorro and Montwood, a lot of dust and stuff with construction would set off an alarm because alarm thinks dust is smoke, so it sets it off. But with the weather we've had, and you know, Gracie, if you're up there, make it stop raining. She's up there. I mean, the rain has played havoc on alarms and on the mechanical systems. You know, the power outages, the lightning have caused some of our units to go off, but we're addressing those on a daily basis, and we got staff out there working on them.
And I just want to say one last thing. Thank you for your staff, you know, going out to those calls and responding to all the facilities that were either flooded, the alarms, you know, I know it was over the weekend, so I just want to commend you and your staff for responding to those. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Arrington.
Thank you.
Good, our next item, 7B, new school name recommendations. Our presenters, Daniel Escobar.
Yes, good evening once again, President Morales, members of the board, and Mrs. Carmona. The new school naming task force was convened per policy CW Local, which outlines a process for naming a new school. This report is being presented as information only tonight. The board is not asked to take action this evening. The board may choose to adopt a name for the schools at a future board meeting. 3 parents and 2 students who live in the area to be served by the new combo school participated as members of the task force, along with 2 partners in education, 2 members of the Bond Accountability Committee, and district staff. The process was launched on June 18th with a call for nominations, which were due on July 6th. The call for nominations was posted on the district website, social media, and promoted through local media. 81 nominations were received, representing 34 unique names. The task force had its first meeting on July 15th. The meeting focused on an introduction to the process and a discussion on evaluating nominations. Policy CW Local was shared with members, along with the timeline for reviewing all nominations and submitting recommendations. After independently reviewing the nominations, the task force reconvened on July 22nd. The second meeting focused on the selection of semifinalist nominations. Through consensus, the task force selected the top 5 nominations. Those names, in no particular order, were Desert Moon, Eastlake, Ben Narbuth, Clarice Jones, and Alberto M. Aragon. The individuals who submitted the 5 semifinalist nominations were invited to present to the task force during its meeting on July the 29th. The task force heard presentations for the nominations of Ben Narbuth, Clarice Jones, and Alberto M. Aragon. Additional written information for the nomination of Desert Moon was submitted and read by the group. In addition, the group discussed the nomination of Eastlake. After the presentation, the task force further discussed the names being considered and finalized its name recommendations via consensus. 3 total names are being submitted as a task force's recommendation, 1 as a sole name recommendation for the new middle school, and 2 names presented in order of the task force's preference for the new elementary school. The community task force was unanimous in its recommendation to name the new middle school Eastlake Middle School. This is in line with other school communities who have middle and high schools that share a name and also builds connection and alignment within the feeder pattern. For the elementary school, the task force selected and prioritized 2 names that it recommends be considered. Both are after individuals who have a history of involvement and philanthropy in the Socorro ISD community. The top ranking name, as recommended by the committee, is Ben Narbuth, who had a distinguished military career and long history of volunteerism and philanthropy in SISD schools. The second ranking name being submitted is Alberto M. Aragon, who was a longtime member of the District Police Force and volunteered and led philanthropy efforts for students. Also, as information, the task force was asked to recommend a mascot and colors for each name recommendation. The group reached consensus on specific mascot and color recommendations for each of the finalist names. For the new middle school, the task force submits a mascot of ravens and colors purple, silver, and black. The raven, as discussed by the task force, is a powerful bird which is in line with the other feeder secondary mascots, Eastlake High School Falcons and Colonel John O. Enzer Middle School Eagles. The colors tie into the Eastlake High School palette and incorporates complementary colors used to establish the campus's own identity. For the name of Ben Narbuth Elementary, the task force recommends the mascot of jackrabbits and colors blue and gold. The jackrabbit is an animal native to the area where the school is being built and represents kind, loving traits as lived by Mr. Narbuth. The colors of blue and gold represent the Terrific Kids program and the blue and gold vest Mr. Narbuth wore as he visited schools throughout the community to celebrate students. For the name of Alberto M. Aragon Elementary, the task force recommends a mascot of panthers and colors blue, black, and gold. The panther is a mascot of Officer Aragon's favorite NFL team, Carolina. The colors of blue, black, and gold pay tribute to his life service as a police officer in Socorro ISD and the Blue Santa program, which he started. Again, this report tonight is only for information. The board may choose to adopt a name for the school at a future board meeting. Also, at next month's board meeting, we will recognize and thank the members of the new school naming task force who volunteered their time to represent the community to be served by these new schools, and we'll do so in our special presentations or board honors. And that concludes this report.
Any questions from Mr. Escobar at this time? Thank you, Mrs.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Escobar. We're going to move to item 8, consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be pulled at this time?
Motion to approve consent agenda?
Second.
The motion was made by Mr. Nahara and a second by Mr. Paul Guerra, I believe. Yes? I think I hear, yes. To approve this item as presented. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Next item is new business. 9. Item 9A, consider approval of the 2021-22 maintenance and operation tax rate. Our presenter is Mr. Tony Ressa.
Yes, President Morales, Interim Superintendent Carmona, members of the board. The administration requests your approval to assess the maintenance and operations tax rate of 0.8765 per $100 of assessed valuation. Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Cynthia Nahara and a second by Mr. Eddie Mena. Are there any further discussions or any questions?
Discussion?
Go ahead, Mr. Michael Nahara.
Mr. Ressa, I just want to say thank you. I know that although it is not going to appear on our tax bill, the school district has no control over property values. As a matter of fact, what drives that is the market. And if we're selling a house, we're happy that the market is going up. Of course, if you're paying your property tax bill, we're not so happy. That's the way it works. I just want to be sure, because in my entire time on the board, Mr. Ressa, although you and your team, as well as all the school district leadership, have been very fiscally responsible in many instances, since 2009, there's been times where we appear to be punished because we have been responsible. it comes back and it bites us in the instance where, other areas are able to increase their tax rates, and we're not, because we are being careful and we are being prudent. But there was a comment made earlier about the Socorro district being the second highest in the state, and so that I know is not true. The reason I know that true is because I've looked it up time and time and time again, and anybody who wants to look it up, you can go to comptroller.texas.gov, and you can see the tax rates of all 1,555 districts that are out there. And from having looked it up, I know that our M&O tax rate is lower than 1,256 school districts. 1,256 of those 1,555. Our combined tax rate, remembering that the component in that combined tax rate, and we're going right now, at
87
cents. The rest of that is the M&O, which every single time we either increase that, it goes to public vote. It's a bond. And so we as a community decide whether we are going to assume that additional expense. We make that decision. We vote on it. As a district and community, we go out and we educate all the voters, but then the voters decide whether to support it or not. And then we just have to adjust, or when I say we, I mean you and your staff, sir, go through the calculations to make sure that we have sufficient funds to support the interest and sinking fund there. But even combined, there are 327 districts that are higher than we are with the combined tax rate, and we're a growing district. So again, I just wanted to be sure, and as you presented earlier, we're one of the lowest in our area as well. So just wanted to make that clarification, and again, just thank you all for not, for being prudent, for not, just committing either the district or the community to writing blank checks. I know it's hard, and I know many times you face some difficult questions from us, and are trying, to determine, to make sure that we get as much as the funding possible directly to the students and all the people who support them. So I just want to take the opportunity to make sure that was shared, because I don't know, as much as you share it, it still, the perception, the idea that we're one of the highest tax districts, even though we're not, it always comes up. So once again, thank you, sir.
Agreed, sir, and thank you very much for providing that information to the public.
Are there any other questions? We had a motion and a second. No, another question. We had a motion by Ms. Cynthia Nájera and a second by Mr. Eddie Mena. And no further questions. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
And I know you're up there again, so we'll go ahead and go to item 9B, consider approval of the 2021-2022 interest and sinking fund tax rate.
Yes, President Morales, Interim Superintendent Carmona, members of the board, the administration requests your approval to assess an interest and sinking fund tax rate of 0.398954 per $100 of assessed valuation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We had any other further questions on that? We had a motion. A motion was made by Mr. Michael Nájera and a second by Mr. Eddie Mena. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Item 9C, consider approval of resolution which officially levies the tax rate for the 2021-22 school year. Again, our presenter, Mr. Tony Reza.
President Morales, Interim Superintendent Carmona, members of the board, the submitted resolution officially levies the tax rate for the Socorro Independent School District for the 21-22 fiscal year. It's important to keep in mind that since the proposed tax rate is slightly higher than the no new revenue rate, the motion must be in a certain manner. There must be a record vote by each board member, and the resolution must be approved by at least 5 board members. So President Morales, traditionally here at Socorro ISD, we read out the resolution for the public before we ask the board to either discuss, ask questions, and approve the resolution. So If you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and read the resolution for the public right now. So, the Socorro Independent School District resolution adopting tax rates for 21-22. Number one, recitals. The school district has adopted a fiscal year commencing July the 1st and ending June the 30th. The school district has received the certified taxable property value within the school district from the El Paso Central Appraisal District. The Board of Trustees has published the notice of public meeting to discuss the proposed budget and tax rate as required by Section 44.004 Texas Education Code. The Board of Trustees has conducted a public hearing on the proposed tax rate on August 17th, 2021. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Socorro Independent School District as follows. Number two, the maintenance and operations tax rate per $100 evaluation of property in the school district for the school year 2021-2022 shall be 0.876500. Number three, the interest and sinking fund tax rate per $100 evaluation of property in the school district for the school year 2021-2022 shall be 0.398954. Number four, the total tax rate for 2021-2022 school year shall be $1.275454. Item number five, this tax rate will raise more taxes for maintenance and operations than last year's tax rate. Item number six, this tax rate will effectively be raised by 1.91% and will raise taxes for maintenance and operations on a $100,000 home by approximately $19.10. Approved and adopted on August the 17th, 2021. Are there any questions?
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of $1.275454, which is effectively a 1.91% increase in the tax rate.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Michael Nahara and a second by Mr. Pablo Barrera. Is there any further questions, discussion?
So we'll need a record vote from each board member. You'd have
Which
to
one
ask.
was has to read that?
You'll do a roll.
Go ahead and do a roll call.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to start to my left. Mr. Pablo Barrera,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Guerra,
Aye.
that would be
Steve.
myself, aye. Mr. Castellano, please.
Aye.
Ms. Cynthia Nahara,
Aye.
Mr. Michael Nahara.
Aye.
We have a majority. All those in favor, those opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
Our next item is item 9D, consider approval of the 2021-2022 District and Campus Improvement Plan. Mr. Adam Starkey.
Good evening, President Morales, members of the board, and Mrs. Carmona. I'm back before you again tonight to present to you and to request your approval of our District and Campus Improvement Plan performance objectives for the 2021-2022 school year. And it's required that the board approve the performance objectives if found satisfactory in each school year, and that our plans at the district level and at the campus level be appropriately revised each school year. They are required, but it also should be understood that they are the achievement driver, for how everything is planned out, how everything is to be spent. There was a link, and there was also copies made on CD if you wanted that. The performance objectives they're always very long, so of course that's not included in the packet. It was separate for you to all to check out during the time period between submitted and right now. Okay, so I'm just going to go through this. This is, I always like to include this. This is our timeline. We usually start in May, and we start the development of the new plan and go through steps, and then we do that through about July, and then we get to the beginning of the school year, which we're right around in right now, and we bring it to you all for approval. And then we have our formative assessments and meetings at both the campus level and the district level that go through the year, and then we get to our summative. One of the things that we have done for the
past few years is that each time we do 3 formative evaluations and the summative, and what we do is we update the plans each time. So it's always quarterly and it's on the website. So if someone wanted to see progress, they wouldn't just see it once a year. They see it in October, right now, the beginning, and then October, January, and then in June is the summative where we see how we did, and then cycle starts again. Okay. So of course we have our 5 district adopted goals. Those are approved by you all as a board. And right now they haven't been changed. So each and every plan, district, and campus always has those. Okay. And the district plan and every campus plan has to have performance objectives. So here's an example, and I won't read all of these, but this is an example of goal 2 with performance objectives for the STAR test, and I pick out different ones each year. You know, this one was an example of Cactus Trails Elementary School. Hadn't used that one before because it had been a new school, so I went ahead and did that, and that's an example of those. And below each of those objectives in the plans are strategies that are specific to each of those objectives on how they are going to reach that improvement. This is an example, also Cactus Trails. These are the House Bill 3 goals, and that's another thing that is now adopted into law, of course, since a couple of years ago, and we have to make sure that those were originally board approved out to 2024. In the comprehensive needs assessment, every plan has them. DIP by SIP, you can find all of the goals there. And they also are turned into performance objectives so we can keep the documentation on how we're doing on reaching those goals over the 2020 to 2024 period of time. Another HB3 goal example is in the high school. That's one is in elementary, the early childhood. HB3 also exists in high school as well as end of course, but this is an example from Socorro High this year where it talks about the college and career military readiness, because that is also an HB3 goal that was adopted by this board. Okay, so we have, all of them have those. Okay, so those are pretty much all of the components, and of course the performance objectives were submitted to you all either electronically or on CD, so respectfully I would ask for you all as a board to perhaps entertain approval for this this year. Thanks.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a motion by Ms. Cynthia Nahara and a second by Mr. Eddie Mena to approve the item as presented. Any further discussion?
Question.
Go ahead, Mr. Nahara.
Dr. Starkey,
sir.
Once approved, when will the campus improvement plans be posted on the website?
Tomorrow. We'll send them over to technology tomorrow, Mr. Nahara, and that would mean that hopefully by Thursday, no later than Friday, they'll be up. Hopefully the work orders will allow them to do that, hopefully even by Thursday. But by the end of this week, most definitely.
I was thinking if you walk them over at 8 a.m., Mr. Reyna can have them posted by 9.
I was just going to walk up there and see if I could get him to stay, but I don't know if that he will. Yeah, we'll get him. We'll get it. We'll turn it around maybe 36 to 48, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion? Again, a motion was made by Ms. Cynthia Nahara and a second by Mr. Eddie Mena. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Stark.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Our item 9E, consider approval of redistricting of the SISD member districts. Mrs. Maribel Macias.
Yes, sir. President Morales, Interim Superintendent Carmona, members of the board, I'm here to share with you it's time to start looking at redistricting for SISD board member districts. We had our 2020 census, and therefore the information has already been released. We haven't received it, yes, but it is available. Back in 2011, you all went through redistricting for our board member districts, and we had Bickerstaff, Heath, Delgado, Acosta, LLP. They were the entity that actually went through all of that information with you all and led you through finalizing the redistricting plan, which was posted and you all approved on December 6th of 2011. We have policies BBB legal and local that allow you all to move forward with the redistricting. With that, if any of the current areas are more than 10% of its previous populace, or when you compare them, that's something that whatever entity you all look at will be leading you through as far as for the redistricting. So I'm here today to share with you that I would like your guidance to see if SISD should reach out to any additional forms or firms to provide redistricting services and their proposal, an engagement letter, or if you would like to move forward with Bickerstaff, Heath, Delgado, and Acosta, and we could request a recap of their final fees. How would you like for us to proceed?
Morales?
Go ahead, Mr. Nada.
Well, I absolutely have no issue with the way Bickerstaff, Heath, Delgado, and Acosta have performed this service for us before. I did note in reading the documentation that there is a price increase, and considering that it was done 10 years ago, I completely understand the price increase as well. As a matter of fact, it even seems reasonable to me. I do think we need to ask them for the cap on fees so that we understand what our total liability is. And know that the commitment that we're making. But I also think as a public entity that due diligence and just fiscal prudence requires that we ask other firms for a proposal to make sure that the rate that we are getting is, competitive, and that, the overall fees that we're getting is reasonable as well. And it's not like I said, it's not because of any dissatisfaction whatsoever with the current firm. It's simply just to make sure that we're not spending more than we should, or, that there are things that we need to consider and maybe we don't, because we just do the same thing we did last time.
Yes, sir.
Second.
And
Yeah, that was a motion.
you want to go, that was your motion?
That was the motion?
We're going to choose to
It was a long-winded motion. No, so I think my motion is to, let me make it a little shorter. My motion is to request an estimated cap on fees from the current firm, Bickerstaff, Heath, Delgado, Acosta, LLP, and to reach out to additional law firms so that they too can provide a proposed engagement letter for redistricting services.
Second.
Get that, we have a motion here that was made by Mr. Michael Nahara and a second by Mr. Pablo Barrera. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Macias. We're going to move to item 10, executive session, as I believe the other three were already discussed. The meeting is to be closed for consultation with legal counsel regarding interlocal agreement for the purpose of participation and intervention of Public Utility Commission of Texas, PUC, proceeding PUC docket number 52195, SOAH docket number 473-21-2606, application of El Paso Electric Company to change rates, to discuss personnel and real estate matters, for discussion regarding board operating procedures, and to consider administrative recommendations for Director of Special Education and for Assistant Principal position of Pebble Hills High School under Texas Government Code Section 551.071, 551.072, and 551.074. At this time, the time is 9:53. We'll move to executive session. We are back in session. The time is 10:25. Item 11, new business. 11A, discuss and take appropriate action related to entering into an interlocal agreement for the purpose of participation and intervention in Public Utility Commission of Texas, PUC, proceeding PUC docket number 52195, SOAH, docket number 473, 21-2606, application of El Paso Electric Company of change rates. Mr. Blanco, our presenter.
Thank you, Board President Morales, Interim Superintendent, Ms. Carmona, members of the board. I gave you an update on the current status of the El Paso Electric rate case involving the Rate 41 ratepayer group, of which Socorro Independent School District belongs. It is our request on behalf of the administration that the board authorize the engagement of the Hush Blackwell law firm to move forward and intervene in that case along with the other local public entities which are intervening in that case as well.
I move to authorize the interim superintendent to enter into an interlocal agreement with other El Paso County school districts and like entities to participate and intervene in Public Utility Commission of Texas PUC proceeding, PUC docket number 52195, SOAH docket number 473-21-2606, application of El Paso Electric Company to change rates, authorize the hiring of special counsel at the law firm of Hush Blackwell LLP to represent the district in the matter and to commit an amount to pay for legal fees, expert fees, and expenses in that matter not to exceed the district's corresponding portion proportionate to its kilowatt usage.
We have a motion by Mr. Michael Nahara and a second by Mr. Paul Guerra. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Michael. Our next item is 11B, consider approval of administrative recommendation. Ms. Marta Carmona.
President Morales, members of the board, administration recommends Dr. Analia Jansen to assume the role and responsibilities as the new Director of Special Education.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Eddie Mena and a second by Mrs. Cynthia Nahara. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. If there is no further business for this board.
Wait.
I'm sorry. Oh, I thought they were both. I'm sorry, I apologize. Item B, Assistant Principal, Pebble Hills High School.
President Morales and members of the board, administration recommends Christopher Nuihim to assume the role and responsibilities as the new Assistant Principal of Pebble Hills High School.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. I believe it's Eddie Mena, Mr. Eddie Mena, and a second by Mr. Michael Nahara. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Carmona. And if there is no further business for this board, the meeting is adjourned at 10:33.